The order crackled through the radio like a death sentence. Do not fire. But Lena Cross, 17 years old and barely 100 pounds soaking wet, had 3 seconds to decide. Obey the command and watch her entire squad die in the kill zone below, or pull the trigger and become a traitor. Her finger tightened. The canyon held its breath. Then, crack. One shot. One choice. Everything changed. They called her weak. A mistake. Dead weight in a world built for giants. But in that scorching Nevada wasteland, surrounded by men who wore their scars like badges and their doubt like armor, she would become something none of them expected. Not through strength, not through size, through precision, through seeing what others missed, through surviving what was designed to break her. This is the story of the girl they underestimated, and the moment she proved them all catastrophically wrong. Before we begin, do me a favor. Stick with me until the very end of this story. Drop a like if you're already hooked, and comment what city you're watching from so I can see how far Lena's story travels across the world. Now, let's go back to where it all started. The bus groaned to a stop in a cloud of dust and diesel fumes, its brakes hissing like something dying. Lena Cross pressed her forehead against the window, watching the heat shimmer off the tarmac in waves that made the distant mountains look like they were melting. Welcome to hell. Fort Vanguard wasn't on any map civilians could find. Tucked into a forgotten corner of Nevada where the desert met jagged rock formations that looked like God's knuckles punching through the earth, it was where the military sent people who were either the best or stupid enough to think they could be. Lena was neither. She was just desperate. All right, princesses, off the fucking bus. A voice like gravel in a blender cut through the stale air. You got 10 seconds before I drag you out myself. She grabbed her duffel, light because she didn't own much, and filed out with the others. 23 recruits. Most of them looked like they'd been carved from oak trees. Broad shoulders, thick necks, hands that could probably crush cinder blocks. Then there was Lena. 5'3" on a good day. 108 pounds if she was holding rocks. Dark hair pulled back so tight, it gave her a headache. She looked like someone's little sister who wandered onto the wrong bus. The drill instructor, Sergeant Cale, according to the name tape on his chest, stood at the front like a monument to violence. Shaved head, scar running from his left ear to his jaw, eyes that had seen things that would make normal people quit sleeping. He walked down the line slowly, boots crunching gravel, stopping in front of each recruit. When he got to Lena, he paused, stared, then snorted. You lost, sweetheart? His voice carried across the formation. A few recruits smirked. Daycare's about 300 miles that way. Lena kept her eyes forward. No, Sergeant. No, Sergeant, he mimicked in a high-pitched voice that got laughs. You know where you are? Yes, Sergeant. You know what we do here? Yes, Sergeant. He leaned in close enough that she could smell coffee and cigarettes. We break people. We rebuild them into weapons. You can't even reach the pull-up bar without a step stool. What the hell makes you think you belong here? Something flickered in her chest. Not anger. Something colder. I guess we'll find out, Sergeant. His eyebrow twitched. For a moment, she thought he might actually hit her. Instead, he smiled, the kind of smile that promised suffering. Yeah, he said quietly. I guess we will. Bump. The barracks smelled like sweat, boot leather, and institutional cleaning products that didn't actually clean anything. Lena claimed a bunk in the back corner, away from the clusters already forming, groups coalescing based on size, background, shared cigarettes. She didn't try to join them. Yo, check it out. A voice drifted over from 3 bunks down. They really let anyone in now, huh? Lena focused on arranging her gear, slow, methodical, everything in its place. I'm serious, man. What's she gonna do? Shoot people in the kneecaps? Laughter rippled through the barracks. Maybe that's the plan, another voice joined in. Tactical advantage. Enemy won't see her coming because she's below the sight line. More laughter. She tied her boots, double knot, tight. Hey, Barbie, the first voice again, closer now. You deaf or just stupid? Lena looked up. The guy was massive, 6'2", easy, neck like a fire hydrant. His name tape read Torres. I'm not deaf, she said evenly. Then answer when I'm talking to you. He leaned against her bunk frame, arms crossed. What's your story? Daddy pull some strings? Affirmative action project? Neither. Then what, you lose a bet? She met his eyes, didn't blink. I volunteered. That got his attention. His smirk faltered slightly. You volunteered. He said it slowly, like the words didn't make sense. For this program. That's right. This is tactical operations training, sweetheart. Not summer camp. We jump out of planes, breach buildings, stack bodies when necessary. You can't even stack your fucking duffel properly. Lena glanced at her bag. It was perfectly stacked. Looks fine to me, she said. Torres's jaw tightened. You trying to be funny? No. Because I don't think you understand how this works. See, out there, he jabbed a finger toward the window. In the real world, you fuck up, someone else dies. You hesitate, someone else dies. You can't pull your weight, someone else fucking dies. He leaned down, voice dropping. And I don't plan on dying because some 90-pound diversity hire couldn't keep up. Silence settled over the barracks like snow. Everyone was watching now. Lena stood up slowly. Even standing, she barely reached his chest. I'm 108, she said quietly. And I'm not here to make you feel better about yourself. I'm here to do the job. The job? Torres laughed, cold, sharp. You don't even know what the job is. Neither do you, she said. We're all on day one. His face darkened. For a second, she thought he might swing. His hands balled into fists, muscles tensed. Then, lights out in 5, Kale's voice boomed from the hallway. I catch anyone still breathing loud. You're running to sunrise. Torres held her gaze for 3 more seconds. Then he turned and walked away, shoulder checking her hard enough to make her stumble. She didn't fall, didn't react, just climbed into her bunk and stared at the ceiling while the lights went out and the barracks filled with the sounds of shifting bodies and whispered conversations that definitely included her name. Her hands were shaking. She pressed them flat against her stomach until they stopped. Oh, 4:30 came like a flashbang. Up, 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 feet on the deck, assholes! Lena was already awake, had been for 20 minutes listening to the pre-dawn silence, preparing. The barracks erupted into chaos, bodies stumbling, someone cursed, something crashed. You got 3 minutes to be outside in full kit, or you're running till you puke. She moved efficiently. Boots, pants, shirt, tactical vest, empty for now, but they'd been told to wear it anyway. 42 pounds of gear that felt like 80 when you weren't used to it. Outside, the desert was still dark. Stars scattered across the sky like shrapnel. The temperature hovered somewhere between freezing and fuck you. Kale stood in the middle of the formation, flanked by 2 other instructors who looked equally thrilled to be awake. Welcome to day 1, Kale said flatly. Some of you won't see day 2. That's fine. We don't need weak links. We need soldiers who can operate in the worst conditions against the worst enemies and still complete the mission. He started pacing. You think you're tough? You're not. You think you're ready? You're not. You think you belong here? He stopped, scanning the formation. His eyes landed on Lena for a beat too long. You definitely don't. Today is simple. 10-mile ruck march, full kit. 2 hours. Miss the time standard. You fail. Fall out. You fail. Die. You fail, and I have to do paperwork, which pisses me off. A pause. Any questions? Silence. Good. Because I wouldn't have answered them anyway. Gear up. We step off in 10 minutes. The ruck they issued her weighed 60 pounds. Lena stared at it. The thing was almost half her body weight. Problem? One of the assistant instructors, Staff Sergeant Marr, a woman who looked like she could deadlift a truck, stood over her. No, Staff Sergeant. Then move. Lena hoisted the ruck onto her shoulders. Her knees buckled slightly before she locked them. The straps dug into her collarbone like knife blades. Her spine compressed. Every breath became work. Eyes forward, Cross, Maher said, not unkindly. Long way to go. The march started easy. Gravel road, flat terrain, sunrise bleeding gold across the horizon. By mile 2, Lena's shoulders were screaming. By mile 3, her feet felt like they were on fire. By mile 4, she'd stopped thinking in complete sentences. Left foot, right foot, breathe. Left foot, right foot. Breathe. The pack cut into her. Sweat soaked through her shirt despite the cold air. Her legs trembled with every step. Around her, the bigger recruits were struggling too, but not like this. They grunted, adjusted straps, kept moving. She was falling behind. "Cross, pick up the pace or drop out!" She picked up the pace. Her vision tunneled. The world became boots and dirt and pain. "You're holding up the formation!" She wasn't. She was just at the back. But they didn't care about technicalities. "Maybe she should quit," someone muttered ahead. "Save us all the trouble." "Nah, let her suffer. Be funnier." Left foot, right foot. Her right boot caught a rock. She stumbled, windmilled, barely stayed upright. Laughter rippled through the ranks. Breathe. Mile 6, 7, 8. Her body wasn't hers anymore. It was a machine running on fumes and spite. Every muscle screamed for her to stop. Her lungs burned. Her feet were probably bleeding inside her boots. But she didn't stop. "You quit now. You proved them right." Mile 9. She could see the finish point now. A single orange cone in the distance, shimmering in the heat like a mirage. "Final mile! If you ain't dying, you ain't trying!" Lena's legs nearly gave out. She locked her knees mid-stride, forced herself forward through sheer momentum. Torres passed her, barely breathing hard. He glanced back, smirked. "Still with us, Barbie?" She didn't have the air to respond. The last quarter mile was vertical. Everything hurt. Her vision grayed at the edges. She felt like her heart might actually explode. But she saw the cone. 10 meters. 5. She crossed the line and immediately collapsed to her knees, gasping, the ruck pulling her backward. She caught herself on her hands, dry heaved twice, tasted copper. 1 hour, 53 minutes, Kale's voice boomed. 15 of you missed standard. You know who you are. Hit the showers. Your evaluation packets will be ready in an hour. 15 failed. Lena looked around, vision still swimming. She wasn't one of them. She'd made it, barely. "On your feet, Cross." She looked up. Maher stood over her, expression unreadable. "I said on your feet." Lena forced herself upright. Her legs shook so badly she could barely stand. "You made time," Maher said quietly. "Barely. But you made it." "Yes, Staff Sergeant." "How much did that ruck weigh?" 60 pounds, Staff Sergeant." Maher's eyes narrowed. "And how much do you weigh?" 108, Staff Sergeant." A long pause. "You just carried over half your body weight for 10 miles in under 2 hours. Maher's voice was carefully neutral. "That's not bad for someone who, according to Sergeant Kale, doesn't belong here." Lena said nothing. "But here's the thing, Cross. This was the easy day. Tomorrow gets harder. The day after that gets worse. And eventually, probably soon, your body's going to give out. Because physics doesn't care about heart. Understand?" "Yes, Staff Sergeant." "Do you?" Lena met her eyes. "I understand that everyone here wants me to quit. I understand you've all got your reasons, but I'm not going to." Maher's expression didn't change. "We'll see." She walked away. Lena stood there, swaying, tasting blood, every muscle in her body staging a coup. She'd survived day 1. Barely. That night in the barracks, the surviving recruits moved differently, quieter, more careful. 15 empty bunks served as reminders that this wasn't regular training. Lena sat on her bunk, feet soaking in a bucket of ice water someone had left in the hallway. Her shoulders were purple with bruises from the ruck straps. She'd taped her feet, 3 burst blisters, 2 forming ones. "Yo!" She looked up. Different guy this time, smaller than Torres, but not by much. Name tape, Harper.
"Yeah? How'd you make time?" He wasn't mocking, genuinely curious. "I didn't stop." "Clearly, but you weigh nothing. That ruck was huge on you." "Physics doesn't care about feelings," she said, echoing Maher's words. "Only results." Harper grinned slightly. "Fair. Most people figured you'd drop first mile." "I know. Why didn't you?" She pulled her feet from the ice water, started drying them carefully. "Because fuck them." That got a laugh. Surprised. Genuine. All right, I respect that." He nodded toward the rest of the barracks. "For what it's worth, not everyone thinks you're gonna fail." "What do you think?"
He considered it. I think you made time today. That counts for something. But tomorrow's the range, and marching's different than shooting. Shooting's where things get real. I can shoot. Can you? He wasn't challenging her, just asking. I guess we'll find out, she said. He smiled. Yeah, I guess we will. Ta. The range sat in a natural bowl carved into the desert, surrounded by rock walls that trapped sound and heat like an oven. By 0700, the temperature was already climbing toward triple digits. They stood in a line, 23 recruits who'd survived the ruck march, staring at targets 400 meters downrange. Small black silhouettes that wavered in the heat shimmer. Cale walked the line with his arms behind his back, voice carrying. Long-range precision. This is what separates soldiers from snipers. Any idiot can spray bullets. We need people who can put one round exactly where it needs to go when it needs to go there, every single time. He stopped at a table covered in rifles. Not the standard issue M4s they'd been trained on. These were different, longer, heavier, purpose-built for distance. You'll each take 3 shots. We're measuring grouping, not just hits. Tight group means you understand fundamentals. Wide group means you're guessing, and guessing gets people killed. Torres went first, set up smooth, confident, adjusted his scope with practiced ease. The computers built into the range system fed him data, wind speed, humidity, barometric pressure. 3 shots, 3 hits. Grouping about 6 inches. Cale nodded. Acceptable. Harper went next. Similar results. One by one, recruits stepped up. Some good, some okay. 2 complete misses that earned immediate dismissal from the course. Then, Cross, you're up. Lena stepped to the line. The rifle felt enormous in her hands. She settled into position, pressed the stock to her shoulder. Too long. She had to crane her neck to see through the scope properly. Problem? Cale asked. No, Sergeant. Then shoot. She looked at the computer display. Wind, 8 miles per hour, left to right. Temperature, 97 degrees Fahrenheit. Humidity, 12%. Then she looked downrange. The target wavered. The heat shimmer made distance calculations weird. She could trust the computer, or she could trust her eyes. She looked right, at the brush growing along the rock wall. Watched how it moved. Not constant, gusting. The computer was averaging, but wind didn't average. She waited. The brush stilled for a heartbeat. Now. Crack. The rifle kicked. Her shoulder would bruise. She didn't care. Downrange, the target rang like a bell. Dead center. She heard someone whisper, "Shit." She cycled the bolt, ejected brass, loaded another round, waited for the wind. Crack. Another hit. Maybe an inch from the first. Luck, Torres muttered behind her. She loaded the 3rd round. This time she didn't wait, fired during a gust. The bullet curved. Still hit, but 4 inches left of the others. She stood, cleared the rifle, stepped back. Cale walked downrange with binoculars, studied the target, walked back. 2 perfect. 1 compensated wrong. He looked at her. You didn't use the computer. No, Sergeant. Why not? Because it was lying. The silence was sharp enough to cut. Explain. Lena pointed at the brush. Wind's gusting. The computer averages. Averaging works for most shots, but not precision shots. You have to time the gaps. Cale stared at her. And your 3rd shot? I tested the compensation. Wanted to see how much the gust affected trajectory at this distance. So you intentionally shot off-center? Yes, Sergeant. Why? Because now I know. Another long silence. Then Cale did something she hadn't seen him do before. He smiled. Not the cruel smile from yesterday. Something different. Interesting, he said quietly. Then louder. Next shooter. But as Lena walked back to the line, she felt eyes on her. Different than before. Not mockery. Something closer to concern. The next week was a blur of pain and exhaustion that blended together into one continuous nightmare. Obstacle courses in full kit. Live fire drills. Hand-to-hand combat training where Lena got thrown around like a rag doll until she learned to use leverage instead of strength. Navigation exercises in the dark. Survival training that involved eating things that definitely weren't meant to be eaten. She failed some, passed others. Never quit. The barracks thinned steadily. 19 recruits, 17, 15. Torres still gave her shit, but it was half-hearted now. She'd proven she could keep up. Barely, but enough. Harper started sitting near her during meals. Didn't talk much. Just present. "You good?" he asked one night while she taped fresh blisters. "Define good." "Still breathing. Still here." "Then yeah, I'm good." He nodded. "They're going to ramp it up soon. Kill house drills start next week." "I know." "You ready for that?" She thought about it. "Are you?" "Hell no," he grinned. "But I'm too stupid to quit, so... Same." They sat in comfortable silence for a while. "Hey, Cross?" "Yeah?" "Why are you here? Like, really?" She finished with the tape. "Because I'm good at this." "At getting your ass kicked?" "At seeing things other people miss." He frowned. "What do you mean?" "Doesn't matter." She stood, winced. "Night, Harper." "Yeah, night." She didn't tell him the real reason, didn't tell anyone, because the real reason was simple and complicated at the same time. Her whole life, people had looked at her and decided who she was before she even opened her mouth. Too small, too young, too female, too other. Here, she could be useful. Here, what she really saw, mattered more than how much she could bench press. Or at least, that's what she'd hoped. She was starting to realize that even here, size mattered, strength mattered. But every now and then, like on the range, when she'd read the wind better than the computer, she caught glimpses of something else. Some other way to be valuable. She just had to survive long enough to prove it. Chess. Week 3 started with Kale gathering them before dawn. 12 recruits left now. All of them harder, leaner, meaner than when they'd arrived. "Today we start kill house training," Kale announced. "This is where theory meets reality. You'll clear rooms, identify threats, make split-second decisions under pressure. Every drill is graded. Every mistake is recorded. 3 major failures, and you're done." He gestured towards a massive structure behind him, a 3-story building designed to simulate urban combat. Windows, doors, stairwells, all of it rigged with sensors and cameras. "You'll work in teams of 4. Roles rotate. Everyone gets a turn as team leader." His eyes swept the formation. "Questions?" Torres raised his hand. "Live ammo?" "Some munition rounds. Hurt like hell. Won't kill you. Probably." "What's the scenario?" "Hostage rescue. Buildings held by insurgents. Get in. Neutralize threats. Extract the package. Get out. Simple." Nothing was ever simple. They split into 3 teams. Lena ended up with Torres, Harper, and a quiet guy named Chen who'd barely said 10 words the entire course, but could run forever. Torres was team leader first. They stacked outside the entrance. Lena was third in the formation, behind Torres and Chen, ahead of Harper. "On my mark," Torres whispered into his radio. 3, 2, 1, breach. They flowed through the door like water. Torres went left, Chen right, Lena center, Harper covered the rear. First room, clear. Second room, 2 targets, pop-up silhouettes that rose from behind furniture. Torres and Chen engaged. Both targets dropped. Stairwell ahead. "Moving up," Torres called. They climbed carefully. Lena's heart hammered. The submunition rifle felt wrong in her hands, too light, wrong balance. She missed the weight of the real thing. Second floor. Hallway with 4 doors. Split. Cross Harper, left side. Chen with me. Lena and Harper moved to the first door. She stacked on the wall while he prepared to breach. "Ready?" She nodded. He kicked the door. They flooded in. And 3 targets popped up simultaneously. Too many, too fast. Harper engaged the nearest. Lena took the second. The third. She saw it. Corner of her eye. Target behind an overturned table, partially concealed, raising a weapon toward Harper's exposed flank. She pivoted, fired, hit. The target dropped. "Clear," Harper breathed. They moved back to the hallway. Torres and Chen had cleared their rooms. 1 more floor, 3rd level, narrower, darker. "Stay tight," Torres ordered. They moved as one. Lena felt sweat dripping down her spine despite the AC. This was different than the range. This was chaos. Movement. Decisions measured in fractions of seconds. Final room. The hostage. Torres breached. They flowed in. And Lena saw it. Froze. Cross, what? Stop! Her voice cut through the calm like a blade. Everyone froze. What the fuck? Torres started. Don't move. Lena's eyes were locked on the floor, specifically on a wire running along the baseboard, barely visible, connecting to the hostage chair. That's an IED, she said quietly. Silence. Cale's voice crackled over the loudspeaker. Explain your assessment, Cross. Wire along the floor, Sergeant. Leads under the hostage platform. Pressure release trigger. Soon as we move the hostage, it detonates. And you saw this how? It reflected light wrong, caught my eye. A long pause. Then alarms blared throughout the building. Red lights flashed. Exercise terminated. All personnel exit the structure. They filed out in silence. Outside, Cale waited with his arms crossed. Torres. Yes, Sergeant. You were team leader. You missed the IED. Your entire team would be dead. Explanation? Torres's jaw worked. No excuse, Sergeant. Damn right, no excuse. Cale turned. Cross. Yes, Sergeant. Good catch. Thank you, Sergeant. But his expression wasn't grateful. It was something else. Calculating. However, he continued, you broke formation. Stopped the team without assessing the full situation first. What if there had been an active shooter in the room? There wasn't, Sergeant. You didn't know that? Yes, I did. His eyebrows rose. Explain. I cleared the sight lines first. No positions for concealment except behind the hostage chair, and that angle was blocked by Chen. The only threat was the device. Cale studied her for a long moment. You think fast, he said finally. I see fast, Sergeant. That a fact? Yes, Sergeant. He nodded slowly. We'll see how fast you see when the bullets are real. He walked away. Harper leaned close. Nice catch in there. Thanks. Torres looks pissed, though. Lena glanced over. Torres stood apart from the group, jaw tight, staring at nothing. Yeah, she said quietly. He does. That night, Torres cornered her outside the barracks. We need to talk. Okay. He glanced around, making sure they were alone. What you did today? In the kill house? I stopped you from getting blown up. You made me look incompetent. Lena blinked. I saved the team. You showed me up in front of everyone. His voice was low, controlled, dangerous. I'm the team leader. You don't override me. You don't stop the formation. You sure as hell don't call out mistakes in front of command. Would you rather be right or alive? I'd rather be respected. Can't be respected if you're dead. His face darkened. You think you're clever. You think because you can spot some tripwire or read wind patterns that you're special. I think I can see things you can't. And I think you're a liability. He stepped closer. You're too small for this. Too weak. One day, probably soon, you're gonna freeze up. You're gonna fuck up. And when you do, someone's gonna die because of it. That's not... I don't care what you think. His voice cut like glass. Stay out of my way. Do your job. Don't try to be a hero, because when you fall, and you will, I'm not risking my life to save yours. He walked away before she could respond. Lena stood there in the dark, hands shaking, not from fear, from anger, because he was wrong. She wasn't weak. She wasn't a liability. She was the only one who'd seen the bomb. But proving it once wasn't enough. It would never be enough. She'd have to prove it again, and keep proving it until they either believed her or she broke. The next 2 weeks were a grind that made the first 3 feel easy. Advanced marksmanship, urban warfare, vehicle operations, medical training where they practiced tourniquets on each other and learned exactly how long someone could bleed before dying. Demolitions, communications. Everything blurred together. Lena absorbed it all, stayed quiet, worked twice as hard as anyone else because she had to. 10 recruits left now. They moved differently around her, not hostile, except Torres, but careful, like she was made of glass, Like any moment, she might shatter. She hated it, but she couldn't change it. Not with words, only with results. The final exercise was announced on week 5. Full spectrum combat simulation. 48 hours. Live environment. Real bullets. Or as real as they could be without actual casualties. This is your final evaluation, Cale told them. Everything you've learned, everything you've survived. It all comes down to this. You'll insert via helicopter, conduct operations in hostile territory, and extract under fire. There will be opposition force, real soldiers playing enemy. There will be casualties, simulated but graded as real. Fail to complete the mission parameters, and you fail the course. Questions? Chen raised his hand. Rules of engagement? Standard ROE. Identify targets. Confirm hostile intent. Engage only when necessary. We're building soldiers, not psychopaths. What about team composition? Harper asked. Same teams as Killhouse drills. Torres leads first rotation. Cross takes second if needed. Lena felt Torres's eyes on her. Didn't look back. Equipment? Full combat load. Live rounds. Real medical supplies. If someone goes down, you treat them for real. Clear? Yes, Sergeant. Cale nodded. Good. You insert at 0400 tomorrow. Get your shit squared away. Get some sleep. And don't fuck this up. They dispersed. Lena went to the armory, drew her gear, checked every piece 3 times. Magazine springs, optic mounts, radio batteries, tourniquet placement. Harper found her there an hour later. You good? She looked up. Why does everyone keep asking me that? Because you look like you're about to fight a war. Isn't that the point? He smiled slightly. I guess. Just, you seem more stressed than usual. I'm fine. I'm fine. She softened her tone. Sorry, I just need this to go well. It will. You don't know that. Neither do you. He sat down next to her. Look, Torres is an asshole. Everyone knows it. But he's not stupid. He won't let you fail because if you fail, the team fails. He told me to stay out of his way. Yeah, well, he tells everyone that. Don't take it personal. Kind of hard not to. Harper was quiet for a moment. Can I tell you something? Sure. Everyone's scared of you. Lena looked at him. What? Not like afraid you'll hurt them. Afraid you'll make them look bad. You see stuff nobody else sees. You think different. And that's threatening as hell to guys like Torres who've spent their whole lives being the strongest person in the room. I'm not trying to threaten anyone. I know, but you are anyway. Just by existing. He stood. So here's my advice. Tomorrow, during the exercise, don't hold back. Don't try to make Torres look good. Just do your job, because at the end of the day, that's all that matters. He left. Lena sat alone in the armory, surrounded by weapons and gear, thinking about what he'd said. Don't hold back. Okay? She wouldn't. 400 came too fast. The helicopter's rotors beat the air like a mechanical heart, drowning out thought. Lena sat with her team, Torres, Harper, Chen, plus 2 others from the second squad. They were packed in tight, gear pressing against each other, the smell of JP-8 fuel thick in the confined space. Nobody talked. Too loud. Too tense. She checked her rifle for the 100th time. Magazine seated. Safety on. Optic clear. The crew chief held up 5 fingers. 5 minutes. Her heart rate spiked. This is it. Everything comes down to this. 3 fingers. She checked her tourniquet. Still accessible. Good. 1 finger. The helicopter banked hard. Her stomach dropped. Then, green light. Go! 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 They poured out into the darkness, boots hitting sand, immediately spreading into a defensive perimeter, while the helicopter lifted away in a storm of rotor wash and noise. Silence crashed down. Lena's ears rang. She scanned her sector, nothing but rock and shadows. The desert was a black void lit only by stars. Team 1, rally on me, Torres's voice came through her earpiece. Professional. Controlled. They moved in formation toward the objective, a compound 2 clicks northeast. Intel said insurgents were using it as a staging area. Their job was to clear it and recover intelligence. Simple. Nothing was ever simple. They covered the first click in 30 minutes. Slow. Careful. every step calculated. Halfway through the second click, Lena saw it. Movement, barely visible. Someone shifting position on high ground to their right. "Contact right," she whispered into her mic. 100 meters, elevated. "Confirmed," Chen replied. "I see him." Torres's voice. "Hold position, let him pass." They froze. Shadows among shadows. The figure moved again, closer, carrying something, rifle, probably. Lena's finger rested outside the trigger guard, waiting. The figure stopped, turned, looking right at them. Did he see us? 30 seconds passed, felt like 30 years. Then the figure moved on, disappeared into the rocks. "Clear," Torres said. "Continue movement." They pressed forward. The compound appeared like a wound in the desert, low buildings arranged around a central courtyard, one entry point visible from their angle. "Set security," Torres ordered. "Cross, Harper, overwatch. Chen, with me for entry." Lena and Harper peeled off, moving to a rocky outcrop that overlooked the compound. She settled into position, rifle resting on stone, scanning through her optic. "Overwatch set," she reported. "Copy. Beginning approach." Through her scope, she watched Torres and Chen move toward the compound. Slow, measured, every step deliberate. They reached the wall, stacked up. Torres signaled, breaching. Harper whispered, "You see anything?" Lena scanned the compound. 3 buildings, multiple windows, 1,000 places for someone to... Movement. Second floor window, far building. "Contact, far building, second floor, center window," she called. "One hostile armed. Can you engage?" She steadied her breathing. The target was partially concealed. She could see maybe 40% of him. Difficult shot, long range. Wind was calm, but... Negative, no clean shot. Too much cover. "Torres, did you copy?" Harper asked. Static. "Torres, do you copy?" Nothing. "Fuck," Harper muttered. "Radio's down." Lena kept her eye to the scope. Torres and Chen were inside now, moving through the compound. They didn't know about the hostile in the window, and she couldn't warn them. "We need to move," Harper said. "Get closer." "No, we lose overwatch. They're blind." "They're already blind. Radio's down." He was right, but leaving position violated protocol. "Don't hold back," Harper had said. She made a decision. "You go. I'll maintain position. Get their attention. Tell them about the hostile." "You sure?" "Go." Harper took off down the slope, moving fast toward the compound. Lena stayed locked on target. The hostile in the window hadn't moved, still watching, waiting. Waiting for what? Then she saw it. Another figure, ground floor, moving toward where Torres and Chen had entered. Ambush. Her heart slammed against her ribs. Harper was halfway to the compound. Torres and Chen were inside. The 2 hostiles were converging, and her radio was dead. She tracked the second hostile through her scope. Clean shot. Center mass. Easy. But orders were not to engage unless necessary. Was this necessary? The hostile raised his weapon. Fuck protocol. Lena exhaled, squeezed. Crack! The rifle kicked. The hostile dropped. Alarm shrieked through the compound. Red lights flashed. "Shots fired! Shots fired!" Oh, everything exploded into chaos. And Lena realized with cold, sinking certainty that she'd just broken the only order that mattered. Do not fire first. And everything that came next would either prove she was right or destroy her completely. The simulation didn't care about her reasons. The compound erupted. Sirens wailed. Strobes painted everything red and white. Through her scope, Lena watched figures pour from buildings. Opposition force, moving fast, professional, converging on Torres and Chen's position. Her hand stayed steady on the rifle even as her mind screamed that she'd just ended her career. One shot, one choice. Everything changed. Harper's voice cut through the chaos, crackling with static. "The fuck was that? Cross, did you—" "Hostile was armed, had position on your 6. I took the shot." "You weren't authorized to—" "He was about to light you up." Movement. Second floor window. The other hostile she'd spotted earlier, now repositioning, weapon tracking toward where Harper had gone to ground behind a low wall. Lena didn't hesitate this time. Crack! The figure jerked, dropped. The simulation registered the hit. Lights flashed above the window. Cross, cease fire! Torres's voice finally broke through, raw with fury. That's a goddamn order! She lifted her eye from the scope, scanned the compound. 4 more hostiles closing on Torres and Chen's building. They were pinned, outgunned, and she had eyes on all of them. You've got 4 tangos converging on your position, she transmitted, voice level despite her hammering heart. 2 from the east, 2 from the south. 15 seconds until they have you surrounded. I said cease. Torres, she's right. Chen's voice cut in. I see them. We're fucked if... Gunfire erupted. Simunition rounds, bright marker rounds that hurt like hell but wouldn't penetrate, lit up the darkness. Torres and Chen returned fire from inside the building, muzzle flashes strobing through windows. Lena tracked the eastern tangos. They were using good cover, moving in bounds, covering each other. Professionals. She led the first by half a body length. Squeezed. Crack. Hit. The simulation registered him as down. The second froze, trying to locate the shooter. Crack. 2 down. The southern pair had reached the building. One was trying to breach while the other provided cover. Difficult angle. Lena shifted position slightly, rifle scraping across rock. The breacher exposed himself for a fraction of a second. She took it. Crack. 3 down. The last hostile broke cover, trying to retreat. Crack. 4 down. The compound went quiet except for alarms. Lena's breathing was harsh in her ears. Her shoulder ached from the rifle's recoil. Her hands trembled slightly as adrenaline drained. Overwatch is clear, she transmitted. Silence on the radio. Then Kale's voice, cold and flat. All units, freeze in place. Exercise terminated. Return to base immediately. Her stomach dropped. Terminated, not completed, not passed. Terminated. She'd fucked up. Monumentally. Harper appeared below her position, waving her down. She slung her rifle, descended the rocks carefully. Her legs felt like water. What the hell was that? He asked when she reached him. Not angry, genuinely confused. He was going to kill you. It's a simulation, Cross. They're not real bullets. The decision-making is real. She pushed past him, heading toward the compound where Torres and Chen had emerged, both looking pissed. The consequences are real. Yeah, and you just... I know what I did. The helicopter ride back was silent. Torres sat across from her, jaw clenched, staring. Not glaring, just staring. Like he was trying to figure out a puzzle that didn't make sense. Lena kept her eyes on the floor, rifle between her knees, counting her heartbeats until they landed. They touched down at 0620. Dawn was breaking across the desert, painting everything gold and pink like the world was on fire. Kale waited on the tarmac, arms crossed. Cross. My office. Now. Rest of you, debrief at 0800. She followed him across the compound, boots crunching gravel, feeling every eye on her. The other recruits, instructors, even the support staff who normally didn't give a shit about training exercises. Everyone knew. Kale's office was small and brutal in its efficiency. Metal desk, 2 chairs, maps on the walls covered in marks that probably meant something to people who understood operational planning. It smelled like coffee and old paper. He closed the door, didn't sit, neither did she. Explain, he said. Hostile in the second floor window had position on the entry team. Second hostile was moving to flank from ground level. Harper was exposed. I eliminated both threats. You fired without authorization. Yes, Sergeant. ROE was clear. Engage only on team leader's command or in immediate self-defense. Yes, Sergeant. So you deliberately violated direct orders. She met his eyes. Yes, Sergeant. He studied her for a long moment. She couldn't read his expression. Anger would have been easier. This was something else. Why? He asked finally. Because they would have died. It's a simulation. Nobody dies in simulations. But the habits we build here transfer to real combat, and in real combat, hesitation kills people. So does insubordination. Yes, Sergeant. Kale moved to his desk, picked up a tablet, scrolled through something. You eliminated 5 hostiles in 47 seconds, all headshots or center mass, 0 misses. She said nothing. Your team leader is filing a formal complaint. Says you're reckless, undisciplined, a liability. Her jaw tightened. Understood, Sergeant. Staff Sergeant Maher says you have the best threat assessment instincts she's seen in 15 years of instruction. That surprised her. She didn't let it show. Cale set down the tablet. Here's my problem, Cross. You're not wrong. Tactically, you made the correct call. Those hostiles would have collapsed on Torres and Chen. They would have failed the mission, possibly gotten themselves killed if this were real. But, she said. But, he echoed, tactics aren't everything. There's chain of command, unit cohesion, trust, and right now your team doesn't trust you because you went off script.
Well, better to be alive and angry than dead and disciplined.
Is it? He leaned against the desk. Let me tell you what happens in real combat when someone decides they know better than the team leader. They break formation. They take initiative that gets people killed because the rest of the team wasn't prepared for it. They create chaos. That's not what I know what you think you did. I'm telling you how it looks from the outside. His voice was still level, but there was an edge now. You're not a one-person army, Cross. You're part of a team. And teams need predictability. They need to know what everyone else is going to do before they do it. She wanted to argue. Wanted to say that being predictable got people killed too. But she knew when to shut up. You have two options, Cale continued. Option 1. You accept disciplinary action. Letter in your file. Restart this phase of training with the next class in 6 weeks. Prove you can follow orders. Her heart sank. 6 weeks. Start over. Watch this group graduate without her. Option 2? She asked quietly. You continue with this class, but you're on probation. One more violation, any violation, and you're out. No second chances, no appeals. Clear? Yes, Sergeant. And you apologize to Torres publicly at Debrief. That stung worse than the probation. Sergeant, he was going to be... I don't care, Cale's voice went cold. You undermined his authority. You embarrassed him in front of his team. You fix that, or you're done. Those are your options. She swallowed hard. Yes, Sergeant. Good. Dismissed. She turned to leave. Cross? She stopped. For what it's worth. Cale's voice had changed, quieter. You did make the right tactical call. Just remember, being right doesn't mean shit if everyone else thinks you're wrong. She left without responding. The barracks was empty when she got back. Everyone was at breakfast. She sat on her bunk, head in her hands, trying to process. Apologized to Torres. The words tasted like poison. He'd been wrong. Objectively, demonstrably wrong. And she had to apologize because chain of command mattered more than being alive. She wanted to scream. Instead, she laid back on her bunk and stared at the ceiling, counting cracks in the concrete until it was time for debrief. The briefing room was packed. All 10 remaining recruits plus the instructor cadre. Lena slipped in last, took a seat in the back corner. Torres sat up front with Chen. Didn't look at her. Cale stood at the podium, tablet in hand. Last night's exercise revealed several deficiencies in your training. He began without preamble. We'll address them individually. Torres, your radio discipline was sloppy. You had dead air for 90 seconds during a critical phase. Explain. Torres straightened. Equipment malfunction, Sergeant. Radio went down during breach. Did you have a backup? A pause. No, Sergeant. Why not? I didn't think we'd need it for a simulation. And if this were real combat, I'd have died, Sergeant. Correct. You'd have died because you didn't plan for equipment failure. Chen, you had a clear shot on 2 hostiles at the south entrance. Why didn't you engage? Chen shifted uncomfortably. I was waiting for team leader's authorization. How long? Approximately 10 seconds. And in those 10 seconds, what happened? They reached optimal breach position. Because you waited for permission to do your job. Cale's voice was scalpel sharp. Initiative and following orders aren't mutually exclusive. You need to understand the difference. He moved down the list. Harper had good positioning but poor target identification. One of the other recruits had failed to maintain proper spacing. Everyone got torn apart methodically. Then, Cross. She stood. Yes, Sergeant. You engaged 5 hostiles without authorization, violating direct orders and ROE. However, your threat assessment was accurate and your marksmanship was exemplary. Explain your decision-making process. The room went silent. She kept her voice steady. I identified multiple hostiles converging on the entry team's position. Radio communication was down. I assessed that failure to engage would result in mission failure and probable casualties. I made the tactical decision to eliminate threats, without consulting your team leader. Team leader was unreachable, Sergeant. You could have waited. Waiting would have cost lives. Torres stood abruptly. Permission to speak, Sergeant. Cale nodded. Torres turned to face her. You disobeyed a direct order. You broke chain of command. You acted like you were the only one capable of making decisions out there. I acted to save the team, Lena said quietly. You acted to make yourself look good. His voice rose. You wanted to be the hero, the one who saved everyone, because that's what you've been doing since day one, trying to prove you belong here by showing everyone else up. That's not, isn't it? He stepped closer. Every chance you get, you have to demonstrate how you're smarter, better, more observant. You spotted the IED in the kill house. You read wind better than computers. You see things nobody else sees. His voice dripped with contempt. Must be nice being so fucking special. The room was electric with tension. Lena's hands clenched at her sides. I don't think I'm special. I think I'm observant. There's a difference. No, the difference is that I have to trust my team. And I can't trust someone who goes rogue the second things get complicated. I didn't go rogue. You fired without authorization. You were about to die. It's a simulation, Torres roared. Nobody fucking dies. Silence crashed down. Cale let it sit for 5 long seconds. Then, Cross, do you have anything you want to say to your team leader? She knew what he wanted, what she was supposed to say. I'm sorry, I was wrong. I'll follow orders next time. The words stuck in her throat because she wasn't sorry. She'd made the right call, and saying otherwise would be a lie. But Cale was watching, Torres was watching, everyone was watching, and she needed to stay in this course. She forced the words out. Torres, I apologize for undermining your authority. It won't happen again. It sounded hollow even to her own ears. Torres stared at her. That's it? What do you want me to say? I want you to admit you were wrong. I can't. The room erupted. Multiple voices overlapping. Someone cursed. Cale slammed his hand on the podium. Enough! Everyone shut up. Cale pointed at Lena. You're on probation. One more incident. You're done. Understood? Yes, Sergeant. He pointed at Torres. Your team leader. Act like it. That means accepting input from your team, even when it bruises your ego. Understood? Torres's jaw worked. Yes, Sergeant. Good. Everyone else, learn from this. Combat is chaos. Plans fall apart. Communications fail. Equipment breaks. The teams that survive are the ones who can adapt while maintaining cohesion. Figure out how to do both, or you'll wash out. Dismissed. They filed out in tense silence. Lena made it 3 steps into the hallway before Harper caught her arm. Hey, that was... Don't. She pulled free. Just don't. She walked away before he could respond. The next 72 hours were a special kind of hell. Nobody talked to her, not directly. They'd speak around her, over her, about her when they thought she couldn't hear. He can't believe Cale kept her. One more fuck-up, and she's gone anyway. Wouldn't want her covering my 6th... Torres was the worst. He'd reassigned her position in the team formation from 3rd to last, the spot reserved for the weakest link, the position where you couldn't fuck up anyone else's day if you failed. Training continued. They ran drills, practiced maneuvers. Everything felt wrong. During a live fire exercise, Lena spotted an instructor playing hostile, concealed in a position everyone else had missed. She raised her hand to call it out. Torres cut her off. We see it. They didn't. She could tell from their positioning, but she lowered her hand and said nothing. 10 seconds later, the instructor killed 2 of them with simulated fire. Fuck! Torres slammed his rifle against the ground. Where the hell did he come from? Lena kept her mouth shut. Maher, observing from the tower, called down, Cross, you had eyes on that position for 15 seconds. Why didn't you call it? Team leader said he saw it, Staff Sergeant. Did he? Lena glanced at Torres. His face was red. Apparently not, Staff Sergeant. Maher shook her head. Run it again. Cross, You call what you see. Torres, you listen. That's how this works. But it didn't work. Not really. Because Torres listened with his ears but not his mind. He'd acknowledge her call-outs with a clipped copy that meant he'd heard her but wasn't acting on the information. By day 3, Lena had stopped trying. She did her job, followed orders, kept her observations to herself unless specifically asked, and watched the team's performance slowly decline. Harper noticed, pulled her aside after a particularly bad drill where they'd failed to clear a building because Torres had missed an obvious entry point that Lena had seen immediately. You gotta talk to him, Harper said. I did. He doesn't listen. Then make him listen. How? She was so tired, bone-deep exhausted in a way that had nothing to do with the physical training. He's made up his mind about me. I'm the liability, the problem. Nothing I say is going to change that. So you're just gonna... What? Stop caring? I'm gonna do my job and keep my head down and graduate this course. That's it. Harper looked at her like she was a stranger. That's not you. Yeah, well, she shouldered her rifle. Maybe the me you thought you knew was wrong. She walked away from him too. That night she couldn't sleep. Laid in her bunk listening to the sounds of other people breathing, snoring, shifting in their sleep. Normal sounds, human sounds. She felt separate from all of it. At 0200, she gave up, pulled on her boots, and went outside. The desert at night was a different world, cold, quiet. Stars so bright they hurt to look at. She walked to the range, empty at this hour, just targets and distance markers and wind flags hanging limp in still air. Sat down on the shooting platform and stared at nothing. Can't sleep? She jumped, turned. Meyer stood a few feet away, coffee mug steaming in the cold air. Sorry, Staff Sergeant. I just needed... Relax. You're not in trouble. Meyer sat down beside her, offered the mug. Want some? Lena took it, sipped. It was terrible. She took another sip anyway. You did good work in that simulation, Maher said after a moment. Sergeant Cale didn't think so. Sergeant Cale thinks insubordination is a problem. He's not wrong. But there's a difference between insubordination and initiative. Military doesn't always know how to tell them apart. Lena said nothing. You know what your problem is, Cross? I'm small, weak, and don't follow orders? Maher snorted. Your problem is you're too competent for your own good. Well, Lena looked at her. Seriously, you see things other people miss. You think 3 moves ahead. You've got instincts that take most people years to develop, and that scares the shit out of people like Torres because it makes them feel inadequate. I'm not trying to... I know. Doesn't matter. Competence is threatening. Maher sipped her own backup mug, especially when it comes in a package they're not used to. So what am I supposed to do? Be worse at my job? No. You're supposed to learn how to manage egos while still being effective. Welcome to leadership. I'm not a leader. Not yet. But you could be. Maher stood. Question is whether you're willing to do the work, real work. Not just the tactical stuff. That comes easy to you. The people stuff. The politics. The art of making someone else think your good idea was their idea all along. That sounds exhausting. It is. It's also necessary. Because you can be the best tactical thinker in the world, but if nobody trusts you, you're useless. She walked away, leaving Lena alone with the terrible coffee and too many thoughts. The next day brought a new exercise, vehicle interdiction. They'd set up a convoy scenario on one of the back roads, simulate an ambush, practice response protocols. Lena's team was playing opposition force this time. Their job was to plan and execute the ambush while another team tried to defend the convoy. Torres gathered them in the planning room, spread out a map. Okay, here's the convoy route. 2 vehicles, standard spacing. They'll have gunners and probably dismounts for security. He pointed at the map. I'm thinking we hit them here, at this curve where they have to slow down. Set up a killing field with interlocking fire. Chen nodded. Classic L-shaped ambush. Works, like Harper. You and Morrison set up on this ridge with the SAW. Cross, he paused. Looked at her like she was a problem to solve. You're on security, rear position. Make sure nobody flanks us. Security. The least important job. The spot where she couldn't contribute. Copy, she said flatly. Good. We set up at 1400. Convoy comes through at 14:30. Questions? She had about 15. Kept them all to herself. No questions. They moved out 2 hours later. The ambush site was decent. Good sight lines, natural cover, elevated positions for the gun teams. Torres positioned everyone carefully. Harper and Morrison on the high ground with the squad automatic weapon. Chen with a simulated AT-4 rocket launcher for the lead vehicle. Torres himself would command from the center position. And Lena sat 50 meters behind them all, facing the wrong direction, watching for threats that wouldn't come because the enemy didn't know where they were. She settled in, scanned her sector, tried not to think about how this was a waste of her skills. 30 minutes to contact. The wind picked up. She watched it move through the brush, calculating speed and direction out of habit. From the southeast, gusting to 12, maybe 15 miles per hour, 20 minutes. She heard Torres checking radio discipline, confirming everyone was set. His voice was confident, controlled. He's a good leader when I'm not around to make him second-guess himself. The thought stung. 10 minutes. She saw them first. Not the convoy, something else. Movement on the ridgeline, 300 meters east. Just a flicker. Probably nothing. She raised her binoculars, 2 figures, dressed in OP for uniforms, moving parallel to the convoy route. Flankers. The defensive team had sent scouts ahead. Smart. And those scouts were about to spot Harper and Morrison's position from the side. Lena keyed her radio. Torres, we have... Not now, Cross. Convoy's 2 minutes out. We have scouts, East Ridge. They're going to spot our gun position. Static. Then Torres's voice tight. Are you sure? Positive. 2 dismounts, 300 meters east, moving south along the ridgeline. 30 seconds until they have line of sight on Harper's position. A pause. She could almost hear him thinking, weighing whether to trust her. Chen, Torres said finally. Can you confirm? Negative, Chen replied. I don't have that angle. Harper? I'm focused on the kill zone. Can't see east from here. Torres swore under his breath. Then, Cross, if you're wrong about this, I'm not wrong. Another pause. All right. Relocate. Interdict those scouts before they compromise our position, but do not engage unless absolutely necessary. We need them not to call this in. Copy. She moved fast, rifle up, using the terrain for cover. The scouts were still on the ridge, focused on the road below, not expecting anyone behind them. She closed to within 100 meters, found good cover behind a cluster of rocks, settled in. Through her scope, she could see them clearly now. Young, probably new recruits like her. One had binoculars, scanning. The other was on the radio. Shit! They're already reporting. The one with the radio raised his hand, pointing toward Harper's position. No choice now. Lena centered the crosshairs on the radio operator. Crack. Simulated hit. The kid grabbed his chest where the marker round struck, swore loud enough that she heard it across the distance. The second scout spun, trying to locate the shooter. Crack. 2 down. Her radio crackled. Cross, what the hell was that? Scouts are down. They were calling in our position. I had to engage. God damn it. Convoy's rolling, Chen interrupted. 60 seconds. Lena watched the 2 scouts trudge back toward their base, marked as casualties. She'd stopped them. But had they gotten enough information off before she'd shot? She'd find out soon enough. The convoy appeared around the bend. 2 up-armored HMMWVs, moving at moderate speed, gunners in the turrets scanning. Stand by, Torres transmitted. The lead vehicle entered the kill zone. 3, 2, 1, execute. Harper's SAW opened up, simulated fire, tracer rounds marking hits on the lead vehicle. Chen engaged with the AT-4. The vehicle screeched to a halt, smoke grenades popping. The second vehicle immediately reversed, gunner returning fire. Then, 4 dismounts appeared from behind the second vehicle. They'd been trailing, out of sight, and they were already moving to flank Torres's position from the north. The scouts did get word out. They knew we were here. Contact north, Torres called. 4 dismounts flanking. The carefully planned ambush disintegrated into chaos. Lena watched from her position. She could see everything, the convoy's counter-ambush taking shape, Torres's team scrambling to adjust. Harper trying to shift the SAW to engage the new threat, but getting suppressed by the vehicle gunner. They were losing. She ran the math in her head. The flanking dismounts would reach Torres in 45 seconds. Harper couldn't engage them without exposing himself. Chen was out of position. But Lena had the angle. Do I take it? Torres hadn't given the order, hadn't even acknowledged she existed in the tactical picture. But I can stop this. She made the choice. Moved to a better position, settled, picked her targets. The lead dismount never saw it coming. Crack, down, crack, 2 down. The remaining 2 went to ground trying to figure out where the shots were coming from. Crack, crack, 4 down. What? Who's shooting? Torres's voice confused. Cross, Chen said. She's got the flank. The convoy, now without their flanking element, made the tactical decision to withdraw. Vehicles reversed hard, laying smoke, getting the hell out. Exercise complete. Lena lowered her rifle. Her radio stayed silent. The debrief was brutal. Cale stood at the front, tablet in hand, looking like he'd aged 10 years. That, he said slowly, was a clusterfuck of epic proportions. Torres sat rigid. Torres, your ambush plan was solid. Your positioning was good, but you missed the possibility of counter-reconnaissance. Why? I didn't think the defensive team would have assets for that, Sergeant. Always assume your enemy is smarter than you expect. What else? My team was out of position for the counterflank. Because? Torres's jaw clenched. Because I didn't listen when Cross warned me about the scouts soon enough. And when she eliminated the scouts, I didn't adjust the plan to account for possible compromise. And when the dismounts flanked you, silence. I didn't account for Cross's position, Torres admitted finally. I'd forgotten she was there. But Cale's eyebrows rose. You forgot about 25% of your team? Yes, Sergeant. That's a problem. Yes, Sergeant. Cale turned to Lena. Cross, you engaged the scouts without waiting for authorization. They were compromising our position, Sergeant. Time-sensitive decision. And the flanking dismounts? Same assessment. Team was about to be overrun. Did you inform your team leader before engaging? No, Sergeant. Why not? Because he wouldn't have listened. Because he'd already forgotten I existed. Because chain of command is meaningless if everyone's dead. She didn't say any of that. No time, Sergeant. Cale studied her for a long moment. Then he did something unexpected. He smiled. Congratulations, Cross. You just proved you're absolutely terrible at following orders. Her stomach dropped. You also, he continued, saved your team from complete tactical failure. Again. He set down the tablet. Here's what I'm seeing. Torres, you're a competent leader when things go according to plan. But combat never goes according to plan. You need to learn to integrate real-time intelligence from your team, even when it comes from sources you don't like. Torres nodded stiffly. Cross, you've got phenomenal tactical instincts. Best threat assessment I've seen in years. But you can't keep operating as a lone wolf. You're part of a team. Start acting like it. Yes, Sergeant. That means, and I'm talking to both of you now, you need to figure out how to work together. Because in 2 weeks, we do final evaluation. And if you can't function as a unit by then, you both fail. Clear? Yes, Sergeant, they said in unison. Cale dismissed everyone else, asked Torres and Lena to stay. When the room was empty, he leaned against the desk. All right, cards on the table. Torres, you're a good soldier, strong, competent, natural leader. But you've got an ego problem that's going to get people killed if you don't fix it. Torres's face reddened, but he didn't argue. Cross, you're probably the most tactically gifted trainee I've ever had. But tactical brilliance means nothing if your team won't follow you, and right now, they won't. Lena said nothing. So here's what's going to happen. For the next 2 weeks, you two are paired. Every exercise, every drill, you eat together, train together, plan together. You're going to learn to trust each other or you're both going home. Understood? Sergeant, I don't think as... Torres started. I don't care what you think. This is happening. Torres shut up. Cross? Understood, Sergeant. Good. Start tomorrow. 0500. Both of you report to the planning room. You'll get your first joint assignment then. Dismissed. They left together, walked in silence toward the barracks. Halfway there, Torres stopped. "I don't like you," he said flatly. "I know. You make me look bad." "That's not my intention." "Doesn't matter. It's what happens." He turned to face her. "But Kale's right. I've been too focused on proving I'm better than you, and that's been fucking with my judgment." It was the closest thing to an apology she was going to get. "I've been too focused on proving I belong here," she admitted, "instead of actually being part of the team." They stood there in the fading light, two people who didn't trust each other, forced into partnership. "So what do we do?" Torres asked finally. Lena thought about it. "We start over. Clean slate. You're the team leader. I'm the whatever position you need filled. And when I see something, I tell you, and you listen. Not because you trust me, but because it's tactically sound. And if I disagree with your assessment, then you tell me why, and we figure it out together." He considered that. "Okay, we can try that." "Okay." They started walking again. "For what it's worth," Torres said after a minute, "those were some impressive shots today. The scouts, the flankers, that's real skill." "Thanks." "Where'd you learn to shoot like that?" She almost told him, almost explained about growing up in Montana, father who hunted, endless hours on the range learning to read wind and distance and light. But she didn't, because some things were hers to keep. "Practice," she said instead. He didn't push. They reached the barracks. Torres headed to his bunk. Lena headed to hers. Harper intercepted her halfway. "That was intense," he said quietly. "Yeah." "You and Torres gonna be okay?" "We'll figure it out." "Good, because..." He hesitated. "Look, I know I gave you shit about going rogue, but you were right, both times. The simulation today. You saw what needed to happen and you did it. Thanks. Just maybe try to bring the rest of us along when you make those calls. Would make things less complicated." She smiled slightly. "I'll work on it." That night she actually slept. Not well, but better than the past few days. Because for the first time since arriving at Fort Vanguard, she felt like maybe, just maybe, there was a path forward that didn't end with her washing out or breaking herself trying to prove something nobody wanted to believe. She just had to survive 2 more weeks and hope that when the final evaluation came, she'd finally proven not just that she could do the job, but that she deserved to be trusted with it. The next 2 weeks were different. Not easier. Not friendly, but different. Torres still didn't like her. That was obvious in the way he'd pause before acknowledging her call-outs, the tightness in his voice when he had to ask for her assessment. But he listened now. Actually listened. And Lena learned to communicate better. Fewer assumptions. More explanations. When she saw something, she didn't just call it out. She explained why it mattered, what it meant tactically, how it affected their options. Slowly, grudgingly, they started to function as a unit. Harper noticed first. "You two actually look like a team now," he said one afternoon after a successful building clearing drill. "Don't jinx it," Torres muttered, but there was no real heat in it. Chen nodded. "Your call-outs have been solid, Cross. Saved my ass twice yesterday." "Just doing my job." "Yeah, well, keep doing it," was the closest thing to acceptance she'd gotten. The days blurred together. More drills, more scenarios, everything building toward final evaluation. The crucible that would determine who graduated and who went home. Kale briefed them on day 12. Final evaluation starts Friday at 0400. Duration, 72 hours continuous operations. You'll conduct reconnaissance, direct action, hostage rescue, and exfiltration under sustained pressure. Opposition force will be comprised of active duty special operations soldiers who volunteered to make your lives hell. He let that sink in. This is not a simulation. The bullets are sim rounds, but everything else is real. Real planning, real exhaustion, real decisions with real consequences. You fail a mission parameter, that's a black mark. 3 black marks and you're out, no matter how good your other performance was. Torres raised his hand. Rules of engagement? Standard ROE. Positive ID before engagement. No firing on non-combatants. No unnecessary casualties. You'll be graded on judgment as much as marksmanship. What about teams? Harper asked. Same composition as current. 4-person teams. Team leaders remain the same unless someone gets injured or eliminated. His eyes swept across them. Questions? Lena had dozens. Kept them to herself. Good. Use the next 2 days to prepare, check gear, study terrain, rest, because once it starts, you won't stop until it's over, or you wash out. That night, Torres called a team meeting. They gathered in the planning room, Torres, Chen, Harper, and Lena. A map of the operational area spread across the table. 40 square miles of desert, canyons, and rock formations that looked like they'd been designed specifically to kill people.
All right, Torres said, planting his hands on the table. We've got 2 days to prep. I want to make sure we're all on the same page. He looked at each of them in turn. When his eyes landed on Lena, he didn't look away. Cross, I need to know something, and I need you to be honest. Okay. Can you handle 72 hours of sustained operations? The ruck marches nearly broke you on day 1. This is going to be worse, longer, heavier, no breaks. The room went quiet.
It was a fair question. She knew it. They all knew it. I can handle it, she said. You sure? I'm still here, aren't I? That's not an answer. She met his eyes. Yes, I'm sure. Will I be hurting? Absolutely. Will I slow you down? Maybe. But I won't quit. And I won't fail. Torres studied her for a long moment, then nodded. Good enough. He turned back to the map. Here's what I'm thinking. They'll probably hit us with recon first, make us cover ground, identify targets, report back. That's where Cross's observation skills are going to be critical. What about the direct action phase? Chen asked. That's where we're all going to earn our pay. But Cross, he looked at her again. I need you to promise me something. What? When you see something, you tell me immediately. Not after you've analyzed it. Not after you're sure. The second you see it.
That's going to be a lot of call-outs. I know. I'll filter. But I can't use information I don't have. It was the most trust he'd ever shown her. Deal, she said. They spent the next 6 hours planning, rehearsing communication protocols, discussing contingencies. By the time they broke, Lena's head was swimming with radio calls, phase lines, rally points, and ammunition counts. She stumbled back to the barracks, fell into her bunk fully clothed, and dropped into sleep like a stone into water. The dream came hard and fast. She was on a ridge, rifle in hand, watching a valley below. Figures moved in the distance, too far to identify. She raised her weapon, centered the scope, and saw her father's face in the crosshairs. She woke up gasping, heart slamming, sweat soaking through her shirt. 230. Too early to get up. Too late to get real sleep. She laid there, staring at the ceiling, trying to shake the image. Her father had taught her to shoot, patient, methodical, demanding perfection. Every weekend from age 7 until she left home at 16, hours on the range, thousands of rounds. Learning to read wind, compensate for distance, control breathing. It's not about the gun, he'd say. It's about seeing what's really there, not what you think is there, not what you want to be there, what's actually there. She'd been good at it, better than good. And then she'd left, run away from a home that felt like a cage and a future that looked like slow suffocation in a town where everyone knew exactly who you were and who you'd always be. The military had been escape, purpose, a place where being small didn't matter if you were useful, except it turned out size always mattered. Until now. Until this place. Where what she saw finally counted for something. She couldn't fail this evaluation. Wouldn't. At 0400 Friday morning, they loaded into helicopters under a sky still black with pre-dawn darkness. 9 recruits left. 3 teams of 3, plus Torres's team of 4. Lena's gear weighed 70 pounds. Rifle, ammunition, water, medical supplies, radio, night vision, survival equipment, every ounce carefully distributed but still crushing. The helicopter lifted off. Her stomach dropped. This was it, 72 hours. Everything she'd survived, everything she'd endured, all leading to this. Through the open door, she watched the lights of Fort Vanguard shrink and disappear. They flew low and fast, following terrain, the landscape a black blur beneath them. 20 minutes later, the crew chief signaled. 1 minute. Torres's voice in her ear. Lock it in. We step off hard. We stay hard. No weakness. We do this together. Hoo-yah.
Chen and Harper replied in unison. Lena keyed her radio. Hoo-ya! The helicopter flared, landed hard. Red light turned green. They flowed out into darkness and immediately took a knee in a defensive perimeter while the helicopter lifted away in a hurricane of rotor wash and noise. Silence crashed down. Lena scanned her sector through night vision, the world rendered in shades of green. Empty desert, rock formations like frozen giants. Nothing moving. Set, Torres transmitted. Set, each of them replied. Move. They covered the first 2 clicks in 40 minutes. Slow, methodical, every step measured. The weight of the ruck dug into Lena's shoulders, but she ignored it. Just movement, just breathing. At the rally point, Torres checked his GPS, compared it to the map, nodded. Phase line Alpha. First objective is 6 clicks northeast, hilltop observation post. We get there, establish overwatch, await further orders. They moved. The terrain got rougher. Hills turned into small mountains. Footing became treacherous. Lena's legs burned, but she kept pace. 4 hours in, they reached the hilltop. The view was staggering. The entire operational area spread below them. Valleys, canyons, the skeletal remains of an old mining operation that was serving as the main objective compound. Torres set security. Cross, Harper, get the optics set up. Chen, you're with me on comms. Lena and Harper unpacked the spotting scope, mounted it on the tripod, began scanning. What are we looking for? Harper asked. Movement? Vehicles? Anything that doesn't belong. She started a systematic search pattern. Left to right, top to bottom, section by section. 15 minutes in, she found them. Contact, she said quietly. Northeast sector, approximately 3 clicks out, 4 personnel moving in tactical formation. Torres crawled over, looked through the scope. Confirmed. OPF or patrol. They're moving toward the mining compound, Lena said, tracking them. Could be security rotation or could be setting up for our next phase. Can you tell which? She watched their movement pattern, studied their spacing, the way they moved. They're not relaxed enough for routine security, and they keep checking their 6. They're expecting contact. So they know we're coming. Or they know someone is. Torres pulled back from the scope. All right, we report this, then we... Gunfire erupted in the valley below, not near them, maybe 2 clicks south, but unmistakable. Contact south, Chen called. Different team must have run into OPFOR. The radio crackled. All elements, this is command. Be advised, opposing force is actively patrolling all sectors. Maintain noise discipline and... The transmission cut off in a burst of static. Command, this is Alpha 1. Say again. Over. Torres waited. Nothing. Command Alpha 1, radio check. Over. Static. Fuck, Harper breathed. Jammers? Has to be. Torres cycled through frequencies. All dead. He looked at Lena. How good's your land nav? Good enough. Then we do this old school, map and compass, no comms support. He checked his watch. We've got 12 hours until Phase 2 kicks off. I want to get closer to the main objective, find a hide site, and wait for tasking. They moved out. The next 6 hours were a study in controlled paranoia. Every sound was a threat. Every shadow could hide an enemy. They moved in bounds, one element covering while the other moved, constantly scanning, constantly ready. Lena's senses went into overdrive. She saw everything, the way gravel scattered when wind blew, the pattern birds made when something disturbed them, the difference between a rock's shadow and a person's. Twice she stopped the team before they walked into OPI for patrols. Once she spotted a hidden camera that would have compromised their position. Torres didn't question her anymore, just adjusted their route based on her callouts. By hour 8, they'd covered 12 clicks and were tucked into a cave system overlooking the mining compound. Good concealment, multiple exit routes, clean sight lines. Torres divided them into watch shifts. 2 hours on, 2 hours off. Cross, you're up first. Wake Harper at hour 2. She settled into position at the cave mouth, rifle across her lap, scanning the compound below. It was massive. Multiple buildings, fences, guard towers. At least 20 OPFOR personnel visible, probably more inside. This was their target. Had to be. The sun climbed. Temperature soared. Lena's shift ended and Harper took over. She tried to sleep on the stone floor of the cave but couldn't. Too wired. too aware. At hour 10, Chen shook her awake. "You're not sleeping anyway. Might as well take watch." She crawled back to the mouth of the cave. Something had changed. The compound activity had increased. Vehicles moving, personnel running. Whatever was happening, it was happening now.
"Torres,"
she whispered. He was beside her in seconds. "What?" "Compound's active. Something's going down." He looked through his binoculars, swore quietly. "That's not normal security. That's—" The radio crackled to life. "Faye 1. This is Command. Do you copy?" Torres grabbed it. "Command, Alpha 1, solid copy. Over." "Alpha 1, be advised mission parameters have changed. Time-sensitive target. You are closest element to compound. Prepare for immediate tasking." "Standing by." "Compound contains high-value target. Your mission? Infiltrate, locate HVT, confirm identity, exfil with photographic evidence. Time limit, 6 hours. Opposition force has been alerted to a security breach. They're actively searching for infiltrators. This is a denied area. You get caught, you fail." Torres looked at his team. 3 sets of eyes stared back. "Command, confirm. You want us to infiltrate an active compound, locate an HVT we can't identify, photograph them, and exfil without being detected." "Affirmative. In 6 hours." "Affirmative. Clock starts now. Good luck. Command out." The radio went silent. Harper let out a long breath. "Well, shit." Torres spread out the map. "All right. We need a plan, and we need it fast." They spent 30 minutes analyzing the compound layout, patrol patterns, entry points. Every option looked impossible. Finally, Lena spoke. "What if we don't infiltrate?" Torres looked at her. "Explain." "They're searching for infiltrators. That means they're focused inward and on the perimeter, but they're not expecting observation from distance. We can't identify an HVT from here. We're too far out." "Not from here, but there's a ridgeline." She pointed at the map. 800 meters northeast of the compound, elevated position. We'd have clear line of sight into most of the buildings. Chen frowned. "That's still a long distance for positive ID." "I can make the distance." Lena looked at Torres. "Get me there with a good scope and I can identify faces from 800 meters. We don't need to infiltrate. We just need to see." Torres studied the map. "That ridge is exposed. We get spotted. We're done. It's also outside their search perimeter. They're looking for people trying to get in, not people watching from outside." Harper nodded slowly. "It's actually kind of brilliant. High risk but low probability of contact." Torres looked at Lena. "You're sure you can make that distance?" "Yes. Because if you can't, we're burning half our time on a plan that doesn't work." "I can make it." He nodded. "Okay. We try it your way. But if we get there and you can't get positive ID, we abort and figure out plan B." "Fair." They moved out 15 minutes later. The approach to the ridge was nightmare terrain, open ground, minimal cover. They had to move during a guard rotation window that gave them exactly 12 minutes. They made it in 10. The ridgeline was a knife edge of rock barely wide enough for 2 people. Lena and Torres took position while Chen and Harper set security below. Lena unpacked the high-powered spotting scope, mounted it, began scanning the compound. Through the optics, she could see everything, individual faces, expressions, the patch on one guard's uniform. "I've got coverage on the main building," she said quietly. "Scanning for HVT." "What are we looking for?" "Command didn't say, but HVT means someone important, someone the others defer to." She watched. 20 personnel visible. Some in guard positions, some moving between buildings, all of them wearing the same OPFOR uniform. Then, movement in the main building, a door opening. 3 people emerged, 2 guards flanking a third person in civilian clothes. "Possible HVT," Lena said. "Main building, east entrance, civilian clothes, 2-person security detail." Torres pulled out his camera with the telephoto lens. "Can you confirm face?" She adjusted focus. The HVT turned, looking back at the building, and Lena saw his face clearly. Adult male, approximately 45 to 50, gray hair, scar on left cheek, wearing... She paused. Something wasn't right.
"What?" Torres asked. He's looking at something. Hand signals. The HVT was gesturing to someone inside the building. Another person emerged. Female. Younger. Also civilian clothes, but carrying a rifle. Second person, Lena reported. Female, mid-30s, armed. She's taking orders from the male. So he's definitely the HVT. Maybe, or... Lena adjusted the scope, scanning back into the building through the open door. There, in the shadows, a third figure, watching.
There's someone else. Inside the building, I can't get a clear look. Can you wait? If they close that door, I lose the angle. Torres raised the camera. I've got the male HVT. That's our primary. But if there's someone else... The figure in the shadows moved, stepped into light. Lena's breath caught. The third person was maybe 16 years old. Kid. Wearing civilian clothes that didn't fit right, like someone playing dress-up, and carrying a folder. Torres. The kid. That's the HVT.
What? No, the adult male is clearly... The male is a decoy. Look at the body language. The guards aren't watching him. They're watching the kid. Torres looked through his camera, saw it. Fuck. You're right. The kid handed the folder to the male, said something Lena couldn't hear, then turned and walked back inside. Get the photo, Lena said. Torres fired off a dozen shots as the kid disappeared into the building. Did you get it? He checked the camera. Got it. Clear face, positive ID. Then we need to move. Now. They packed up fast. Rejoined Chen and Harper. Began the exfil. They'd covered maybe 300 meters when the shooting started. Not at them. Somewhere else. South of their position. Contact south, Chen called. Not on us, but close. They went to ground. Lena scanned through her rifle scope. 2 clicks away, she could see muzzle flashes. OP for engaging someone. Another team must have tried the direct infiltration approach. Keep moving, Torres ordered. Use the distraction. They covered another click before the radio crackled. All elements, be advised, Bravo team is compromised. They have casualties. Alpha 1, what's your status? Torres keyed up. Alpha 1 has completed objective. HVT photographed. Currently conducting exfil. Copy Alpha 1. Proceed to extraction point Charlie. ETA? Torres checked the map. 90 minutes. Confirmed. You are priority exfil. Charlie team will hold the LZ. Command out! They moved faster now. The weight of the ruck was crushing, but Lena ignored it. Just kept moving. 1 foot, then the other. Again. Again. 60 minutes in, her legs were screaming. 70 minutes, she was running on pure will. At 85 minutes, they crested a hill and saw the landing zone below. 1 helicopter, rotors spinning. 3 personnel, Charlie team, providing security. They were going to make it. Then Lena saw them. Contact, she yelled. Ridge West, up for element. 6 personnel, moving to cut off the LZ. Torres spun. Fuck! How long? 3 minutes. Maybe less. Charlie team, this is Alpha 1. You've got OPF for closing from the west. 6 personnel, 3 minutes out. Copy Alpha 1. We see them. Get to the bird. We'll hold them off. They ran. Lena's body screamed protest, but she forced it forward. Down the hill. Across open ground. 200 meters. 100. Gunfire erupted behind them. Charlie team engaging the op for element. 50 meters. The helicopter's crew chief was waving them in frantically. 25 meters. Something hit the ground next to Lena. Smoke grenade. The world disappeared in white fog. Keep moving, Torres yelled. She couldn't see anything. Just ran toward where the helicopter had been, praying her direction was right. Her boot caught something. She went down hard, ruck smashing into her back, driving the air from her lungs. Hands grabbed her. Harper. Hauling her up. Move! They burst through the smoke. The helicopter was right there. Torres and Chen already aboard. Harper shoved her toward the door. She grabbed the crew chief's hand. He pulled. She tumbled into the bird. Harper dove in behind her. Go! Torres yelled. The helicopter lifted. Below them, Charlie team was still engaged, trading fire with the OP-4 element. Then they were clear, rising, banking hard, the LZ shrinking below. Lena laid on the floor of the helicopter, gasping, every muscle in her body on fire. They'd done it.
Torres grabbed her shoulder. Some nice call on the kid. How'd you see that? She couldn't answer yet, just gave him a thumbs up. But as the helicopter carried them back toward base, as the adrenaline drained and exhaustion set in, Lena felt something shift. For the first time since arriving at Fort Vanguard, she felt like maybe, finally, she'd proven something, not just to them, to herself. The evaluation continued for 2 more days. More missions, more impossible tasks. They rescued a simulated hostage from a fortified position, conducted a vehicle ambush, performed battle damage assessment after a simulated airstrike. Lena's body was past breaking. Her feet were raw, her shoulders were purple with bruises. She'd stopped feeling hunger or thirst, operating on autopilot and stubbornness. But she didn't quit. None of them did. On the final day, they got their hardest mission. Exfiltrate through hostile territory to reach extraction, 20 clicks away, with OPFOR actively hunting them. They moved at night, slow, careful, every sound a potential ambush. 15 clicks in, Lena spotted them. "Freeze," she whispered. Everyone stopped. She pointed. 200 meters ahead. An OPFOR patrol setting up an ambush on their exact route. Torres looked through his night vision.
How the hell did you see that? One of them moved wrong. Broke silhouette for a second. Can we bypass? She studied the terrain. There's a canyon route. Adds 2 clicks but avoids them entirely. Lead the way. She took point, navigated them through darkness and rock, trusting her instincts more than her eyes. Twice more she spotted OPFOR elements before they spotted her team. Twice more she guided them around. They reached the extraction point with 15 minutes to spare.
The helicopter was already inbound. As they waited in the pre-dawn darkness, Torres sat down next to her. "You know what you are?" he said quietly. "What?" "A pain in my ass." She smiled slightly. "Yeah?" "Yeah. But you're also the best early warning system I've ever seen. I'd follow you into combat." Coming from him, that meant everything. The helicopter landed. They loaded up. As they lifted off, Lena watched the desert fall away below. 72 hours. 3 days that felt like 3 years. And she'd survived. They all had. When they landed back at Fort Vanguard, Cale was waiting. "Good work out there. All of you. Debrief at 1400. Until then, showers, food, rest. You've earned it." Lena stumbled toward the barracks. Her body was shutting down, running on fumes. She made it to her bunk, sat down, tried to take off her boots, but her hands were shaking too badly. Harper sat down next to her. Didn't say anything. Just started unlacing her boots for her. "Thanks," she managed. "You saved our asses about 15 times out there." "Just doing my job?" "Yeah, your job. Our lives." He pulled off one boot, then the other. "Get some sleep, Cross. You've earned it." She laid back, closed her eyes. And for the first time in 72 hours, she let herself believe that maybe, just maybe, she'd actually passed. The formal evaluation results came 3 days later. They gathered in the briefing room. 9 recruits who'd started the final evaluation, 7 still standing, 2 had washed out during the 72 hours. Cale stood at the front, holding a folder. "I'm not going to sugarcoat this," he said. "That was the hardest evaluation cycle we've run in 5 years. The standards were brutal. The expectations were unrealistic, and you met them anyway." He opened the folder. "The following personnel have successfully completed tactical operations training and are hereby recommended for advancement to specialized assignment." He started reading names. Chen, Harper, Torres. Lena's heart hammered. 2 more names. 4 down. Then, Cross. She exhaled. Didn't realize she'd been holding her breath. "You 7 represent the best of what we're trying to build here. Soldiers who can think, adapt, operate independently while maintaining unit cohesion." Cale looked at each of them. "You're not done. This was just the beginning, but you've proven you have what it takes." He dismissed everyone except Lena. When the room was empty, he pulled out a second folder. "I wanted to talk to you separately," he said. Her stomach clenched. "Sergeant, you passed, but it was close. You had the highest tactical scores I've ever seen. Your threat assessment was perfect. Your marksmanship was exceptional. But you also had multiple violations of protocol, initiative without authorization, decisions made without consulting your team leader. If this were a regular course, You would have washed out. I understand, Sergeant. Do you? He set down the folder. Cross, you're incredibly talented, but talent isn't enough. You need to learn when to trust your instincts and when to trust your chain of command. Because eventually, you're going to make a call that gets people killed.
Or saves them. Maybe.
But you won't know until it's too late. That's the risk. He paused. I'm recommending you for advanced sniper training. It's a better fit for your skill set. Long-range precision, independent operation, room for initiative. Her heart jumped. Sergeant, Don't thank me. Just don't fuck it up. He stood. You're dismissed. She left before he could see the tears in her eyes. Outside, Torres was waiting. Hey. She wiped her face quickly. Hey.
You good? Yeah, just processing. He nodded. For what it's worth, you earned this. Every minute of it. Thanks. And Cross? Yeah? Sorry I was an asshole. She smiled. You were just doing your job. Nah, I was being an asshole. There's a difference. He held out his hand. Clean slate? She shook it. Clean slate. That night she sat outside the barracks watching the stars, thinking about everything that had brought her here.
The girl who'd run away from home because she didn't fit. The recruit who'd nearly broken under a ruck that weighed half her body weight. The soldier who'd learned to see what others missed. She'd survived. More than that, she'd succeeded. Not because she was the biggest or the strongest, because she'd been willing to become something else entirely. And tomorrow, she'd start again. Harder training, higher standards, new challenges. But tonight, under the desert stars, she let herself feel something she hadn't felt in a long time. Pride. She'd earned this, every painful, impossible second of it, and she was just getting started. The pride lasted exactly 16 hours. Lena woke to someone shaking her shoulder hard. Her eyes snapped open. Maher stood over her bunk, face unreadable in the dim light. Cross. Get dressed. Kale's office. Now. What time? Now. The barracks was still dark. 400 maybe. Everyone else asleep. Lena pulled on her uniform, laced her boots with shaking fingers, and followed Maher across the compound. Something was wrong. She could feel it in the way Maher walked. Too fast, too tense. Kale's office light was on. Through the window, Lena could see figures inside. More than just Kale. Mayer opened the door without knocking. 3 people inside. Kale behind his desk. A woman in a business suit Lena didn't recognize, and a man in army dress uniform with colonel's eagles on his shoulders. Sit down, Cross, Kale said. She sat. The colonel studied her with eyes that had seen too much. I'm Colonel Briggs. I oversee this training program and several others like it. Do you know why you're here? No, sir. Yesterday's final evaluation, the HVT identification mission. Tell me how you made the call. Lena's mind raced. Sir, we observed the compound from distance. I identified 3 individuals, 2 adults and 1 juvenile. Based on body language and deference patterns, I assessed the juvenile was the actual HVT despite initial appearances suggesting otherwise. And you were confident in this assessment? Yes, sir. Why? The guards weren't watching the adult, they were watching the kid. And the adult took instructions from the kid, not the other way around. Briggs nodded slowly. Your assessment was correct. That juvenile was the actual HVT. Your team was the only one that got it right. Relief flooded through her. Thank you, sir. Don't thank me yet. He glanced at the woman in the suit. This is Agent Carver, Defense Intelligence. She has some questions. Carver opened a folder. Lena Cross, age 17, enlisted at 16 with parental consent, except we can't locate your parents to verify that consent. Lena's blood went cold. Your enlistment papers list a father, Robert Cross, residing in Montana. But when we tried to contact him for a routine verification, we found that address is a vacant lot. Robert Cross has no social security number, no tax records, no employment history. He doesn't exist. I don't understand. Who signed your enlistment papers, Lena? Her throat tightened. My father. Your father who doesn't exist. He exists. He doesn't trust the government, lives off-grid. Carver leaned forward. Off-grid is one thing. No records at all is something else, so I'm going to ask you again. Who actually signed those papers? Lena's hands clenched under the table. I did. The room went silent. You forged your father's signature, Carver said flatly. Yes, and lied about your age. I didn't lie about my age. I'm 17. I just didn't have real parental consent, which makes your enlistment fraudulent. Cale's face was stone. Cross, is this true? She couldn't look at him. Yes, Sergeant. Why? Because I needed to get out. Out of where? Montana, a town where everyone knew me, where I'd never be anything except what they expected me to be. Her voice cracked slightly. The military was the only option that didn't require me to be someone I'm not. Briggs spoke. Did you think we wouldn't find out? I thought I'd be 18 before it mattered. I thought if I could just prove I belonged here, prove I could do the job, maybe... She trailed off. I thought wrong. Carver closed her folder. Fraudulent enlistment is a serious offense. At minimum, it's grounds for immediate discharge. Potentially criminal charges depending on how the JAG office wants to handle it. Lena felt the floor drop out from under her. I understand. Do you? Briggs's voice was sharp. You wasted government resources, training time, instructor effort. You took a slot that could have gone to someone who actually qualified, all because you wanted an escape route? No, sir. I took it because I'm good at this, because I knew I could do the job better than most people twice my size. That's not your call to make. With respect, sir, I just completed one of the hardest training programs in the military. I outperformed recruits who had every physical advantage. I proved I belong here. You proved you're talented, Carver said. Not that you belong. There's a difference. Cale finally spoke. What happens now? Briggs exchanged a look with Carver. That's what we're here to determine. He stood, walked to the window, stared out at the desert darkness. Here's the situation. Cross is exceptionally skilled. Her tactical assessment scores are the highest we've recorded. Her marksmanship is nearly perfect. She has instincts that can't be taught. He turned back. She's also a minor who lied her way into a program designed for adults, who violated regulations, who created a legal nightmare for everyone involved. So discharge her, Mahir said quietly. She'd been silent until now. Cut the loss. Move on. That's one option. What's the other? Lena asked. Briggs looked at her. We have a problem that you might be able to solve. There's a mission. High risk. Time sensitive. Requires someone with your specific skill set. Excellent observation, threat assessment, distance shooting. But it also requires someone who doesn't officially exist. Someone we can disavow if things go wrong. You want to use her fraudulent status as an advantage, Cale said. I want to give her a chance to earn her place here legitimately. She completes this mission successfully. We retroactively validate her enlistment. Clean slate. No charges. She gets to stay. And if she fails, Maher asked, then the fraudulent enlistment stands and she's discharged. But at least she gets a chance. Lena's mind was spinning. What's the mission? Carver opened a different folder, slid a photo across the table. This is Lieutenant Marcus Webb. 3 days ago, he was part of a training exercise in the same operational area you just completed your evaluation in. His team was conducting night operations when they came under fire. From OPFOR? No. From unknown hostiles, real bullets, not simulations. We think someone's using our training area for smuggling operations. Webb's team stumbled into them. She slid another photo. This one showed a landscape marked with GPS coordinates. Webb was separated from his team during the firefight. Last known position was here, a canyon system approximately 30 clicks from where you were operating. We've had search and rescue teams looking for 3 days. No luck. You want me to find him, Lena said. We want you to do what you do best. See what others miss. Webb is out there somewhere, probably injured, possibly captured. Standard SAR isn't working because whoever's operating in that area is actively evading detection. Briggs tapped the photo. You proved you can spot threats other people miss. You proved you can operate independently. This is your chance to prove you deserve to be here. When? You insert at 0600. That's 2 hours from now. You'll have support, One team on standby for extraction if you locate Webb, but the search itself is solo. You find him, you call it in, support comes in for exfil. And if I don't find him, then we keep looking the conventional way, and you go home. Lena looked at Cale. His expression was unreadable. Sergeant, what do you think? He was quiet for a long moment. I think you're being given an opportunity most people don't get. A chance to fix your mistake. Whether you take it is up to you. She looked back at Briggs. I'll do it. You're sure? Yes, sir. Briggs nodded. Then let's get you briefed. The next 90 minutes were a blur of intelligence reports, terrain analysis, and equipment checks. Webb's last known position, the canyon system where he'd disappeared, potential hiding spots, water sources, everything they knew, which wasn't much. The smugglers are well equipped, Carver said, pointing at surveillance photos. Night vision, encrypted comms, professional operation. If you encounter them, do not engage. You're not out there to fight. You're there to find Webb. What if they find me first? Then you use your judgment. But remember, you're not officially on this mission. If things go wrong, we can't acknowledge you. Understood. Mar pulled her aside while they prepped her gear. You don't have to do this. Yeah, I do. No, you could walk away right now. Take the discharge. Go home. Home to what? Lena checked her rifle. I've got nothing there. This is all I have. Is it worth dying for? Is anything? Maher didn't have an answer for that. At 05:45, Lena stood in front of a different helicopter, smaller, unmarked. The pilot was civilian contractor. Deniable. Torres appeared from the darkness. Heard you got a solo mission. Word travels fast. Myers worried. Figured I should check on you. He looked at the helicopter. What's going on, Cross? She couldn't tell him, couldn't tell anyone. Just a job, she said. Bullshit. Nobody gets pulled out of bed at 0400 for just a job. He stepped closer. You in trouble? Maybe. Probably. Doesn't matter. It matters to me. You're part of my team. Something warm flickered in her chest. I'll be fine. You better be. Because if you die out there, I'm going to be pissed. She smiled slightly. Noted. The pilot signaled, time to go. Torres grabbed her shoulder. Watch your six, trust your instincts, and come back, all right? All right. She climbed into the helicopter. The flight took 40 minutes. Low and fast, following terrain, the desert a black void beneath them. When they reached the drop point, the pilot didn't even land, just hovered 3 feet off the ground. This is it. Good luck. Lena jumped, hit the sand, rolled. The helicopter was already lifting away, disappearing into the darkness. Silence crashed down. She was alone. 30 clicks from base. In hostile territory, looking for someone who'd been missing for 3 days. She checked her gear, rifle, ammunition, water, medical supplies, radio, encrypted, emergency only, GPS, night vision, and a photo of Webb tucked into her chest pocket. So she'd recognize him if she found him. When you find him. She started moving. The canyon system was massive. Miles of twisting rock, narrow passages, dead ends. Perfect place to hide. Perfect place to disappear. Webb's last known position was a grid coordinate in the northern section. She covered the distance in 3 hours, moving carefully, scanning constantly. The sun rose. Temperature climbed. She found shade in an overhang, drank water, studied the terrain. If Webb was injured, he'd need water. She pulled out her map, marked every water source within a 5-click radius. 3 options. She'd check each one. The first was a dried-up creek bed. Nothing. The second was a small spring tucked into a canyon wall, fresh tracks in the mud. Boot prints. Military issue. Her heart rate spiked. She followed the tracks. They led deeper into the canyon, meandering like someone who was hurt and disoriented. Then the tracks disappeared. She froze. Scanned the area. The prints just stopped, like Webb had evaporated. Unless he'd been covering his trail. She looked up. There, 20 feet above her. A narrow ledge barely visible from below. And on that ledge, a dark opening. Cave. She climbed carefully. The rock was loose, treacherous. Twice she nearly fell. But she made it. The cave entrance was small. She'd have to crawl. She pulled out her pistol, rifle was too long for confined spaces, and eased forward. The tunnel opened into a small chamber, dark, cool, and occupied. "Don't move," a voice rasped from the shadows. Lena froze. "Lieutenant Webb?" A pause. "Who's asking?" "Private Cross, Fort Vanguard. I'm here to find you." "Prove it." She pulled out the photo, held it up so he could see. "This is you. Your team leader was Captain Hayes. You went missing 3 days ago during a night op." Movement in the darkness. A figure emerged, gaunt, filthy, favoring his left leg. "You're just a kid," Webb said. "I'm the one they sent." He laughed bitterly. "That's how important I am. They send a kid." "Can you walk?" "Barely. Took a round through the calf first night. I've been hiding ever since." He gestured at his leg, blood-soaked bandage, poorly wrapped. "Infection's setting in. I've got maybe another day before it kills me." Lena keyed her radio. "This is Cross. I have Webb. Position is..." She rattled off coordinates. "He's mobile but injured, requesting immediate exfil." Static. Then Carver's voice. "Copy your position. Be advised we have activity in your area. Smugglers are moving. Recommend you lay low until nightfall, then move to alternate extraction point." Negative. Webb needs medical attention now. He won't last until nightfall. Cross, if you move now, you'll be exposed. The smugglers have patrols. I don't care about the smugglers. I care about getting him out alive. A long pause. "Your call," Carver said finally. "Extraction team is standing by, but if you get compromised, they can't come in." "Understood. Cross out." She looked at Webb. "Can you move?" "Do I have a choice?" "Not really." He pushed himself upright with a grimace. "Then let's do this before I change my mind." They made it half a click before Lena saw them. 3 vehicles, moving fast along the canyon floor. Armed personnel in the beds. "Down!" she hissed. They dropped behind a rock formation. Webb's breathing was ragged, pained. Lena watched through her rifle scope. 6 hostiles visible. Professional kit, definitely not Op 4. "They're searching," Webb whispered. "For me. They've been hunting me since that first night." "Why?" "Because I saw their operation. They're moving weapons, serious hardware. If I get out and report what I saw, they're done. Then we make sure you get out." The vehicles stopped maybe 200 meters away. Personnel dismounted. Started spreading out in a search pattern. Lena ran the math. 6 hostiles, 200 meters, moving closer. And she had an injured man who could barely walk. No way they'd make it to the extraction point without being seen. "Webb, how good's your shooting?" "Right now? Terrible. I'm shaking like a leaf." "Can you hold a rifle steady?" "Maybe. Why?" She handed him her rifle. "If I say shoot, you shoot. Doesn't have to be accurate, just loud." "What are you going to do?" "Buy us time." She pulled out her pistol, checked the magazine. 17 rounds. Not enough for a firefight, but enough to make noise. "Stay here. Don't move unless I signal." "Cross, wait." But she was already moving. She circled wide, using the terrain for cover, getting above the search party. Found a position with good oversight and plenty of escape routes. Then she fired 3 rounds into the dirt near the vehicles. The effect was immediate. The searchers dove for cover, weapons up, scanning for threats. Lena was already moving. Changed position. Fired twice more from a different angle. They returned fire. Wild, panicked, shooting at shadows. She keyed her radio. "Cross to extraction team. I am engaging hostiles to cover Webb's movement. Recommend you get the bird in the air now." "Copy. Bird is lifting. ETA 12 minutes. 12 minutes. She just had to keep them busy for 12 minutes. She moved again. Fired. Moved. Fired. The hostiles were confused, thinking they were surrounded, wasting ammunition on ghosts. But they were adapting, getting organized. 2 were trying to flank her position. She dropped back toward Webb. Found him right where she'd left him, rifle up, watching her approach. "Time to move. Extraction is inbound." They hobbled forward. Webb leaning heavily on her, both of them moving as fast as his injured leg would allow. Behind them, the hostiles were closing in. Lena heard the helicopter before she saw it. The beautiful sound of rotors cutting air. Then she saw them too, the flanking team. 2 hostiles, 50 meters out, weapons raised. Webb, down! They dropped. She pivoted, fired her pistol. 2 rounds. The hostiles scattered. Webb raised the rifle. Fired. The recoil nearly knocked him over, but the shot was close enough to make the hostiles think twice. The helicopter appeared over the canyon rim, diving fast, aggressive. LZ is 30 meters ahead, the pilot transmitted. Move your ass! Lena hauled Webb upright. 20 meters. 15. Gunfire cracked behind them. Rounds snapped past. 10 meters. Webb stumbled. Lena caught him, dragged him forward. 5 meters. The helicopter's door gunner opened up, suppressing fire that tore chunks out of the canyon wall above the hostiles' heads. They reached the bird. Hands grabbed them, pulled them inside. The helicopter lifted hard, banking, accelerating. Below, the hostiles fired uselessly as they disappeared over the canyon rim. Lena collapsed against the bulkhead, gasping, her hands shaking. Webb was already being treated by the medic on board. IV going in, bandages being changed. You good? The medic asked Lena. Yeah, I'm good. The flight back took 20 minutes. Webb was stable by the time they landed. Ambulance waiting. He was loaded up quickly. Before they took him away, he grabbed Lena's hand. Thank you, he said. I thought I was dead out there. Just doing my job. Your job is to be in training, not running solo rescue ops. He squeezed her hand. Whatever they're making you prove, you just proved it. Don't let them tell you different. Then he was gone. Cale was waiting on the tarmac. Debrief, now. She followed him to the briefing room. Briggs and Carver were already there. Sit, Briggs said. She sat. You engaged the hostiles, Carver said. Not a question. I provided suppressing fire to facilitate exfil. You were ordered to avoid contact. Contact was unavoidable. I made the tactical decision to control the engagement rather than let it control me. Briggs leaned back. How many hostiles? 6 visible, possibly more. Casualties? Unknown. I wasn't trying to kill them, just keep them busy. Did you compromise your position? They knew someone was there. They didn't know it was a rescue op. Carver made notes. Webb confirmed the smuggling operation, said it's bigger than we thought. We'll have to bring in federal agencies. This is going to be a whole thing. But that's not Cross's problem, Briggs said. He looked at Lena. You found Webb. You got him out alive. You completed the mission. Yes, sir. Despite being 17 years old and technically not supposed to be here. Yes, sir. He was quiet for a moment. Then he stood, pulled out a folder and handed it to her. Inside was a single document, her enlistment papers, with a new signature at the bottom. Official. Validated. This makes you legal, Briggs said. Retroactive approval from me as program commander. Your enlistment is now legitimate. You're officially a soldier. Lena stared at the document. Sir, Don't thank me. You earned it, the hard way. He glanced at Cale. She's cleared for advanced training? Yes, sir. Sniper program starts in 2 weeks. Good. Briggs nodded to Lena. Don't waste this second chance. Most people don't get one. I won't, sir. Dismissed. She walked out of the briefing room in a daze. The sun was setting, painting the desert gold and red. Torres found her sitting on the steps outside the barracks. You look like hell, he said. Feel like it, too. Heard you pulled off some kind of solo rescue. That true? Something like that. He sat down next to her. You know what your problem is, Cross? I have many problems. You'll need to be more specific. You keep trying to do everything alone, like you don't trust anyone to have your back. That's not... Yeah, it is. You ran away from home, lied your way into the military. Tackled this whole training program like it was you against the world. He looked at her. But it's not. You've got people here who'd go to war for you. You just have to let them. She didn't know what to say to that. Harper told me to tell you he's proud of you. Chen said you're buying first round when we hit the next town, and I'm saying... He paused. I'm saying I was wrong about you. You're not a liability, you're an asset, and I'd be honored to serve with you, for real. Something in her chest cracked open. Thanks, she managed. Yeah, well, don't get used to it. I've got a reputation to maintain. He stood. Come on, there's food. You look like you haven't eaten in a week. I haven't. Then what are you waiting for? She followed him inside, to the mess hall where Harper and Chen were waiting, to hot food and terrible coffee and conversations that felt almost normal. That night, lying in her bunk, Lena pulled out the validated enlistment papers and stared at them. She'd started this journey running away from something, but somewhere along the way she'd found something worth running toward. A place where being small didn't matter, where seeing what others missed was valuable, where she could be exactly who she was and have it be enough. She'd earned this, every painful step. And tomorrow, she'd start earning it again. Because that was the deal. You didn't just prove yourself once. You proved it every single day. But for tonight, under the familiar sounds of the barracks settling into sleep, surrounded by people who'd become something closer to family than she'd ever had, Lena Cross let herself rest. She'd found her place. Now she just had to keep it. The 2 weeks before sniper school started were supposed to be recovery time. Light duty, rest. Lena spent them on the range. Every morning before dawn, she'd slip out of the barracks and walk to the firing line. Just her, the rifle, and the targets downrange. Working through fundamentals. Breathing, trigger control, reading wind. Torres caught her there on day 3. "You ever sleep?" he asked, sitting down beside her position. "Sometimes. You're gonna burn out before you even start the new program. Or I'll be ready." He watched her fire 3 rounds, all center mass. "You're already ready. What are you really doing out here?" She lowered the rifle. "Making sure." "Of what?" "That it wasn't luck, that I can actually do this." Torres was quiet for a moment. "You know what I learned about you these past few weeks?" "What?" "You don't know how to accept that you're good at something. Like you're always waiting for someone to prove you're a fraud." "Maybe I am a fraud. You just rescued a missing lieutenant from armed smugglers. By yourself. While being 17 years old." He stood. "At some point, you gotta stop fighting to prove yourself and just accept that you already did." He walked away before she could respond, but his words stuck. That night, Harper cornered her in the mess hall. "We're going into town tomorrow. Celebration before everyone ships out to different schools. You're coming." That wasn't a request. Chen's already called dibs on buying you a beer. Well, a soda. Because you're technically still underage. But the point stands. I should really... Cross, and Harper's voice went serious. "You've been here for 2 months. You've barely talked to anyone outside of training. You need to actually have a life." "I have a life." "No, you have a job. There's a difference." She wanted to argue. Couldn't find the words. "Oh, 900 tomorrow," Harper said. "Parking lot. Don't make me drag you." The town was 20 miles from base. Small, dusty, the kind of place that existed purely to service the military installation nearby. One main street, a few bars, a diner that looked older than the desert itself. They piled into the diner. Torres, Harper, Chen, and Lena claimed a corner booth, ordered food that was terrible and perfect at the same time. "So what's sniper school like?" Chen asked through a mouthful of burger. "Hell, probably," Lena said. "More hell than what we just went through?" "Different hell, longer shots, more math, less running." "Sounds perfect for you," Torres said. "You'll probably love it. Or wash out in the first week." Harper threw a fry at her. "Stop that. Stop acting like you're gonna fail. You're not gonna fail. You're too stubborn." "Stubbornness doesn't stop bullets." No, but apparently being 5'0" and weighing less than my ruck does," Chen grinned. "Seriously, Cross, how'd you even make it through that first ruck march?" "Spite." That got laughs. They spent 2 hours there, eating, talking, arguing about everything and nothing. It felt normal. Human. When they finally left, the sun was setting. They stood in the parking lot, not quite ready to go back yet. "You know what's weird?" Harper said. 2 months ago, I thought you'd be the first one gone. Now I can't imagine doing this without you." "Same," Chen said. "You're like, I don't know, our good luck charm or something." "I'm not a charm. I'm a person." "A person who sees shit nobody else sees and keeps us alive," Torres said, "which is better than a charm." Lena felt something warm and uncomfortable in her chest. "Thanks, I think." "What about you?" Harper asked. "What are you going to do after sniper school?" "Assuming I pass?" You're gonna pass. She thought about it. I don't know. Go where they send me, I guess. Do the job. That's it? No bigger plan? The plan was to survive Fort Vanguard. I'm still working on what comes after. Torres nodded. Fair. But for what it's worth, wherever you end up, you're going to be good at it. Because that's who you are. Someone who sees the thing everyone else misses and makes the call nobody else wants to make. That sounds exhausting. It is, he said. But somebody's got to do it. They drove back as the desert turned dark. Lena sat in the back seat, watching stars appear one by one, thinking about what Torres had said. Somebody's got to do it. Maybe that was enough. Maybe she didn't need a grand plan or a bigger purpose. Maybe just being the person who saw what others missed was purpose enough. The next morning, Cale called her to his office. You ship out in 3 days, he said without preamble. Sniper school. Fort Redstone. Different state. Different instructors, different standards. I know, Sergeant. You ready? I don't know. He smiled slightly. Good answer. Overconfidence gets people killed. He pulled out a folder. Inside was her complete training record, scores, evaluations, notes from every instructor. I've been doing this for 15 years, Cale said. Trained hundreds of recruits, maybe thousands. Most of them are adequate, some are good. A handful are exceptional. He closed the folder. You're exceptional, Cross. Not because you're the strongest or the fastest, but because you think different, you see different, and you have the guts to act on what you see even when everyone's telling you you're wrong. Is that a compliment or a warning? Both. He leaned back. Here's what I need you to understand. You're going into a program where most of the students have years of experience, combat deployments, real-world operations. You're 17 with 2 months of training. They're going to look at you and see a kid who doesn't belong. Story of my life. Right, but here's the difference. At Fort Vanguard, you had to prove yourself to us. At Redstone, you're going to have to prove yourself to yourself. I don't understand. You've spent so much time fighting for external validation that you've never stopped to ask if you believe in yourself.
And until you do, you're going to keep pushing until something breaks. Probably you. Lena was quiet. So my advice, Cale continued, is to go to Redstone and remember why you started this. Not to prove something to your father or your hometown or the people who doubted you, but because you're actually good at this. Because it matters. Because people like Webb are alive because of what you can do. He stood, held out his hand. Good luck, Private Cross. Make us proud. She shook his hand. I'll try, Sergeant. Don't try. Do. The next 2 days were a blur of packing, paperwork, and goodbyes. On her last night at Fort Vanguard, Lena walked to the range one final time, sat on the shooting platform, watched the stars. Someone approached from behind. She turned. Maher. Figured I'd find you here, Maher said, sitting down beside her. Couldn't sleep. Nervous? Terrified. Maher nodded. Good. Fear keeps you sharp. It's when you stop being afraid that you get sloppy. They sat in silence for a while. Can I ask you something? Lena said finally. Shoot. Did you think I'd make it? First day when I showed up weighing 100 pounds and looking like someone's lost kid. Did you think I'd survive? Maher was quiet for a long moment. Honestly? No. I thought you'd be gone in a week, 2 at most. What changed your mind? You did. Every time someone told you to quit, you didn't. Every time the odds said you'd fail, you found a way. And somewhere around week 3, I realized you weren't just surviving, you were thriving. I wasn't thriving, I was barely holding on. Same thing sometimes. Maher pulled out something from her pocket, a small patch, Army Sniper Qualified. This was mine, from my first school. I want you to have it. I can't. You can. And you will, because you're going to earn your own soon enough. But until then, this is a reminder that someone believes in you, even when you don't believe in yourself. Lena took the patch, turned it over in her hands. Thank you. Don't thank me. Just don't waste it. You've got something special, Cross. Don't let anyone convince you otherwise, including yourself. She stood, started to walk away, then stopped. Cross? Yeah? Your father, the one who taught you to shoot. Was he real? Lena thought about that. In the ways that mattered?
Yeah, he was real. Maher nodded. Then some part of him must be proud. Wherever he is. She left. Lena sat alone with the patch, thinking about her father, about Montana, about everything she'd run from. She pulled out her phone, stared at it for a long time, then she typed a message to a number she hadn't called in over a year. I made it through training, starting sniper school next week. Thought you should know. She hit send before she could change her mind. 3 minutes later, her phone buzzed. Knew you would. You always could see what others couldn't. Don't forget where that came from. Dad. She stared at the message, then typed back. I won't. She powered off the phone, pocketed it, stood up and walked back to the barracks one last time. The bus to Fort Redstone left at 0600. Torres, Harper, and Chen were there to see her off. Chen thrust a candy bar into her hands. For the road. Thanks. Harper pulled her into a hug. Don't be a stranger. Write, call, send smoke signals, something. I'll try. Torres waited until the others stepped back. Then he held out his hand. You changed my mind about a lot of things, he said quietly. Made me a better leader. Better soldier. Better person, probably. I didn't do anything. Yeah, you did. You showed up and refused to quit even when everyone wanted you to. That takes a special kind of crazy. He smiled. Good luck out there, Cross. I'll be watching to see what you do next. No pressure. All the pressure. But you'll handle it.
You always do. Climbed onto the bus, found a seat, watched through the window as the three of them stood there waving. The bus pulled away. Fort Vanguard shrank behind her, the place that had broken her down and built her back up, where she'd learned that being small didn't mean being weak, that seeing what others missed was a skill worth cultivating, that she could belong somewhere if she was willing to fight for it. The drive took 8 hours.
Desert gave way to grassland, gave way to mountains. The landscape changing like she was changing, leaving behind who she'd been, becoming who she was meant to be. Fort Redstone was bigger than Vanguard, more established, more official. She checked in, got her barracks assignment, stowed her gear. The sniper school orientation was at 1400 in the main briefing hall. She arrived early, claimed a seat in the back. The room filled up slowly. Soldiers with years of experience, combat patches on their shoulders, ranger tabs, special forces backgrounds, men and women who looked like they'd seen and done things she couldn't imagine. And then there was her, 17, 2 months of real training, looking like she'd wandered into the wrong building. The whispers started immediately. Who let a kid in here? Is she lost? Someone's daughter probably, here for a tour. Lena kept her eyes forward, ignored them. The head instructor walked in. Master Sergeant Cole looked like he'd been carved from granite and disappointment. Welcome to Army Sniper School, he said. Over the next 12 weeks, we're going to teach you to kill people from distances they can't even imagine. We're going to break you down to nothing and rebuild you as precision instruments of warfare. Most of you will fail. Some of you will quit. A few of you will graduate. His eyes swept the room, landed on Lena, paused. I don't care where you came from. I don't care what you've done before. In this building, you're all equally worthless until you prove otherwise. Questions? Silence. Good. We start tomorrow at 0400. Don't be late. He dismissed them. Lena stood, started to leave. You. In the back. Come here. She walked to the front, every eye in the room on her. Cole looked her up and down. How old are you? 17, Master Sergeant. You even old enough to be here? Yes, Master Sergeant. Who approved this? Colonel Briggs, Master Sergeant, he grunted. And what makes you think you can handle this program? Everyone was listening now, waiting to see her fail. Lena met his eyes. I don't think I can handle it, Master Sergeant. I know I can. That a fact? Yes, Master Sergeant. Why? Because I've already handled worse, and because when everyone else misses what's right in front of them, I see it. That's what makes a good sniper. Not size, not strength, vision. Cole stared at her for a long moment. Then he smiled. Not friendly, predatory. We'll see. Dismissed. She walked out with her head high. That night, lying in a new barracks with new faces, Lena thought about everything that had brought her here. The girl who'd run from home, the recruit who'd barely survived the first ruck march, The soldier who'd rescued a missing lieutenant. All the same person, all different versions. And tomorrow she'd start becoming someone new again. Someone who could hit targets at 1,000 meters, who could operate independently behind enemy lines, who could see what others missed and make the shots that mattered. She fell asleep thinking about wind patterns and bullet trajectories and the weight of a rifle that felt less like a burden and more like an extension of herself. The next 12 weeks were exactly as brutal as promised. 5-kilometer runs before dawn. Mathematics of ballistics, wind reading, range estimation, camouflage and concealment. Stalking exercises where you had to get within 200 meters of an observer without being seen. Lena failed the first stalk, and the second. Her size was actually a disadvantage here. Less body mass to hide, but also less reach, less ability to cover ground quickly. But she adapted, learned, studied the terrain like it was a language she was meant to speak. By week 6, she was passing stalks that made others quit. By week 8, she was outperforming students with years more experience. By week 10, even the instructors had stopped looking at her like she didn't belong. The final exam was a comprehensive test. Long-range shooting, moving targets, unknown distance, wind calls. Everything they'd learned condensed into one brutal day. Lena's first shot at 800 meters was perfect. Dead center. Her second at 900 was low by 2 inches. She adjusted, compensated, fired again. Perfect. Her third at 1,000 meters, with gusting wind and failing light, was the hardest shot she'd ever attempted. She watched the brush, timed the gust, calculated drop and drift, exhaled, squeezed. The target rang. Perfect. When the scores came back, she'd placed 3rd overall, out of 40 students, behind 2 Special Forces soldiers with combat deployments and years of experience. Cole called her to his office. "Private Cross." "Yes, Master Sergeant." "You did well. Better than I expected when I first saw you." "Thank you, Master Sergeant." "You want to know what I think?" "Yes, Master Sergeant." "I think you're going to have a hard career because you're young, because you're small, because people are going to constantly underestimate you, and every single time you're going to have to prove them wrong." "I know, Master Sergeant. But," he continued, "I also think you're exactly the kind of soldier we need. Someone who doesn't rely on physical dominance, who uses their brain before their trigger finger, who sees the battlefield as a puzzle to solve rather than an enemy to overwhelm." He handed her a graduation certificate. Official, stamped. "Congratulations, Private Cross. You're now a qualified Army sniper." She took the certificate with shaking hands. "Don't waste it," Cole said. "And don't forget, graduation isn't the end. It's the beginning. The real test comes when the bullets are real and the stakes are lives." "I understand, Master Sergeant." Dismissed. She walked out of his office in a daze. 3 months ago, she'd been a kid lying her way into the military. 2 months ago, she'd been a recruit barely surviving basic training. Now she was a qualified sniper. The path hadn't been straight. It hadn't been easy. And it definitely hadn't been what she'd imagined when she first ran away from Montana. But it was hers. That night she called Torres. "Cross, how'd it go?" "I passed. 3rd in the class." "3rd? Only 3rd?" He was grinning. She could hear it in his voice. "Slacker." "Shut up. How's infantry school?" "Terrible, wonderful. I hate it and love it. You know, the usual." "Heard from Harper and Chen?" "Harper's at Ranger School. Chen's doing some intelligence course. Everyone's scattered now." "Yeah." "You okay?" "I think so. It's weird. I spent so long fighting to get here, and now that I'm here, I don't know what comes next." "What comes next is you keep being you. You go where they send you. You do the impossible. You make everyone who doubted you regret it." He paused. "And maybe, every once in a while, you remember that you've got people who believe in you, who are proud of you, who will always have your back." "Thanks, Torres." "Anytime, Cross. Stay safe out there." "You too." She hung up, sat on her bunk, looked at the graduation certificate, thought about her father's message. Don't forget where that came from. She wouldn't. Because the truth was, everything she'd become had roots in everything she'd been. The kid who learned to shoot in Montana, the runaway who lied her way into the military, the recruit who carried a ruck that weighed half her body weight, the soldier who saw what others missed. All of it mattered. All of it made her who she was. And who she was, it turned out, was someone worth becoming. 2 weeks later, she received her first assignment. Deployment orders. Overseas. A unit that specialized in precision operations. Exactly what she'd trained for. She packed her gear, said goodbye to the few friends she'd made at Redstone, boarded a plane that would take her halfway around the world. As the plane lifted off, she looked out the window at the landscape falling away below. America shrinking. Everything familiar disappearing into distance. She thought about the girl she'd been 16 months ago. Scared, running, desperate. That girl was gone now, replaced by someone harder, stronger, more capable, but also somehow more herself than she'd ever been. Because pressure didn't crush her. It revealed her. And what it revealed was someone who could see through darkness, hit targets that shouldn't be possible, and survive things that would break other people. Someone who'd finally found where she belonged, not by being what others expected, but by refusing to be anything except exactly who she was. The plane banked into clouds. The world disappeared into white. And Lena Cross, 17 years old, qualified sniper, survivor of impossible odds, closed her eyes and let herself rest. Because the journey wasn't over. It was just beginning. And she was finally ready for it. She'd walked into Fort Vanguard as a joke, a liability, a kid who didn't belong. She walked out as a soldier, not because she'd changed who she was, but because she'd proven that who she was had always been enough. The barracks that had held her doubt now held her memories. The range that had tested her had forged her. The desert that had tried to break her had taught her exactly how strong she could be. Years from now, other recruits would walk those same paths, face those same doubts, carry those same impossible loads. And somewhere, in a briefing room or a barracks or a midnight conversation, someone would tell them about the girl who'd made it through despite every reason she shouldn't have. The one who saw what others missed. The one who refused to quit. The one who proved that sometimes the moment you're doubted the most is the moment you discover exactly who you're meant to be. Her name was Lena Cross, and she was just getting started. Sometimes the hardest battles aren't fought with weapons. They're fought with the courage to prove that you belong, exactly as you are.